Side.
All right, folks. Welcome to what we're calling tonight the Stand Your Ground stream. We have the Emperors and the Mountain That Writes with us today because, things have gotten weird for more than one of us recently. So we thought we'd have our little online war council. So welcome Larry Correia, Nick Cole, and Jason Ansbach.
Yeah, fuck welcome you, Mike.
Stream, fellas. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, but Mike's on all the time, right? So
the man that needs no introduction.
He's not a
Mike.
kid.
Mike is like Steve Martin.
The three on top here are all regulars.
Mike is like Steve Martin before Alec Baldwin on Saturday Night Live. You're just like, well, he's not really in the cast, but he's always here.
You said Alec Baldwin. I had to check, make sure I wasn't about to get shot.
It just went off by itself. Hey, just to clarify, because the last time I was on the air with your guys, we kept doing like show and tell and whipping out various guns as we went. You can't do that on YouTube anymore, can you?
You can hold guns, you just can't load them. You can't put a magazine in them. You can't put a suppressor on them. It's ridiculous.
So, the suppressor kind of changes that. I know. So Facebook has this interesting thing where if you even hint that you're like feeling suicidal and going to kill yourself, they ban you immediately because they don't want you doing that on your platform. So instead of people being able to like reach out for help, it's just like, nope, go do that somewhere else. So I'm wondering if YouTube is like, we don't want people live streaming suicides or anything. So anytime a gun shows up, just
oh my gosh,
X that stream.
Just
so
go out.
If you're the pro tip here is if you're gonna kill yourself, just go ahead and make it a big surprise for everybody.
Right. Well, you have to kill yourself on Twitch, I think, is what the takeaway is.
Yeah. Don't ask for help or anything because that would look bad on the corporate stockholders. They don't want that.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Just go to your suicide pod. Put your $5
or Canada.
in.
We'll say,
Yeah.
If anybody out there is genuinely like struggling, guys, seek help. Do not go to a live stream for help. The internet is a terrible place to go for help if you're depressed.
Not this one.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine you go on a live stream saying you really need help? The kind of like internet trolls start going on and start harassing you into it. It's like, do it, sissy.
I'll help you if you smash that like button.
If you've been on any of our pages and like someone will involuntarily or occasionally they'll ask like a dumb gun question. And suddenly you'll get 600 replies telling you why, you're Satan for loving 308 or a Glock or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that should tell you that talking about suicide is not going to help here. These people have strong opinions on ammunition and mayonnaise.
Right.
Look, if you're going to kill yourself, you definitely want the bigger caliber, all right?
Yeah. So that's case.
Yeah.
Flame Warbird.
And that's when the guy comes in and tells you, no, subsonic 22LR. That's the way to do it. That's how I live. You're like, oh my gosh, the internet where everybody's constantly certain.
I've got this new caliber 100 blackout.
Mayonnaise. Where you go.
Yeah.
All you have to do is go on Facebook and say like, I really like Hellman's or Miracle Whip will just incite hundreds of just posts on like how much you're just a demon because you like Miracle Whip. And the truth is Miracle Whip's not bad. If you grew up poor, Miracle Whip's great.
Trust me, Nick, I get it because Larry decided to tag me in his hot take AMA that he did today. And my Facebook has been blowing up with just like people asking him the most loaded questions.
I'm sorry about that, Coop, but I was having a conversation with you, and they pulled up a screen cap of it to demonstrate I was like the worst person in the world. It wouldn't be fair if I'm the worst person in the world for talking to you. I should share this with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, I haven't even like had one of those conversations with you in 8 months, and I'm still able to just pull the pin on you and cause drama.
Well, see, Larry learned the master stroke because like when I was first on Facebook and I first met Larry and everything like that, everybody would tag Larry every 5 seconds, and he finally began to like scream at all of them, "Stop tagging me!" And now he's learned, like, oh, well, why don't I just tag people and enrich their lives?
Yeah. Now I learned them up real smart. It's like, you want to keep tagging me? Okay, I'm going to put you in one of my threads, and you'll see how this like. I'm going to put you in one of my threads, and then go like be a guest somewhere on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of have to, because that's the only way that you're going to get people to see your posts. Because back on topic, you like how I did that? Is
nice.
The algorithms are definitely suppressing a lot of any sort of organic discussion and marketing of the stuff that we talk about. Everybody here has at some point felt that robotic boot of Amazon or Facebook or whatever big tech try to stifle them out. And we saw this recently on Amazon. Everybody's kind of known that it's been going on for a while, but especially with Doc Spears and Pete. And I mean, Larry, with your new book coming out, I'm sure you felt it. But we found that not only was Pete's newest series, Grey War, it was not showing up in the search results unless you went straight to Pete's name, clicked on his author page, sacrificed an animal to whatever gods you pray to, and then it would show up. But then on top of that, the thumbnails aren't showing up because Amazon apparently has a problem with action thrillers showing guns on them.
Let me clarify this a little bit. First of all, the search results thing has somewhat sorted itself out. But for a good 24 to 36 hours there, coincidentally, just after I got rejected for advertising for this book, because this is apparently, to the algorithm, violent content.
I know, it's triggering me right now.
Yeah, I want to kill.
It's threatening because you're going to be threatened by a book cover.
Nick just shot a hobo out the window while we were talking. I mean, you pushed him over the edge.
Though, so you can't hear it at all. As we all
on
know,
a scale of 1 to Buffalo Shaman, how violent is that cover?
So,
I mean, Buffalo Shaman basically almost overthrew the entire government of the United States, ending hundreds of years of our proud history, and he wasn't even wearing a shirt. I mean, that's pretty badass.
I think
the only bare arms I need, baby.
We underestimate that dude's level of confidence in that he attacked the U.S. Capitol with, let me check, no weapons.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean,
zero weapons, and he attacked the Capitol.
He was dressed for a religious ritual. He was pulling some, fucking black magic or some shit.
Lethal weapons right here, and
he's a druid. We're lucky he didn't assume bear form.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you're gonna lead an infantry platoon into battle, like, you want 40 dudes that just have so zero chill that they're like, no, we won't be taking the weapons. And you're like, what? What do you want to do this on Tomahawks? All he had to do was
lower his head and
hardcore mode is what they call it.
And then you say, I'm going to stay back here. You guys take the objective. Okay, now I'm going to go get another bunch of dudes who actually want to take the weapons.
Yeah.
My favorite guy still was the one that stole Nancy Pelosi's podium. That guy, I'm sorry, that guy, I laughed my ass off. That was so... As an American, I just like, yeah.
Didn't he put that up for sale on Etsy?
I hope so.
I bet that dude had always been that way his entire life. And when people saw that picture, they said, like, kids from high school who grew up with him, they're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I remember when you sold the velvet roast
Buffalo hat guy. Buffalo. I wonder what his court defense was. Like, in my defense, Your Honor, I was really blitzed out on peyote.
Mike, I don't think you're wide, because I was paying attention to some of the stuff, and they were saying well, he was a vegan and he's a shaman and he had low blood sugar that day.
Oh, okay.
And literally that was kind of the defense, is he was out of his mind.
Dude, if I was on the jury, I would have been all jury nullification on that.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, you have no idea how persuasive Ray Epps can be. Okay, so when your blood sugar's a little bit low, he just starts making sense.
Hey, Adam Schiff hates everybody and wants to send everybody to prison for 52 years for trespassing. and lock you up for 2 years without an arraignment. But Ray Epps, he's cool. He's cool.
Yeah,
No, we don't want to. Yeah, he's cool. He's
leave
totally
the guy
yeah, he's
alone.
fine.
He's on your side. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
He should be signing up gym contracts at 24-hour fitness. He can close so hard.
Oh yeah, no. He gets.
I can't wait for his book because I want to see if Amazon Marketing Services suppresses him too.
Oh no.
Oh.
No.
Oh yeah, Ray
he'll be
Epps' book
fine.
is called "If I Did It." From what I understand.
Because he was targeted by a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
You think I'm joking? I've actually seen that case attempt to be made.
Oh yeah, because obviously, only way you could find any of this suspicious is if you're a wacky conspiracy theorist.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's common for a guy to be a ringleader of a thing that sends hundreds of people to prison, and the one guy is totally cool. And there's no suspicious on him, and it's not like we're dealing with an entity that specializes in undercover operations and CIs to the point where we have hundreds of movies and TV shows and true stories and crime documentaries about undercover agents and CIs. Right. But to suggest that actually happens in real life is completely insane, and you should all feel bad.
Well, I think we should be applauding the FBI because what they're trying to do is they're trying to do a makeup call for Richard Jewell here. And so they're like, okay, all right. This time we do have the guy, but we're going to let him go to make up for Jewell. We're really sorry about that whole Atlanta bombing thing. And so, Epps, go ahead. You're good. And everybody, we're okay. In fact,
Lynn Woods involved again
to make up for Ruby Ridge. So that's also, they're really turning a page.
I never really thought of our legal system in the karmic sense, but I think that makes perfect. I think the shaman would approve.
It's NFL referees. It's the makeup call. It's like,
I would just like to.
It's what we call social justice. All right,
that's what it means, actually. Yeah,
I would just like to be a karmic defense attorney, in which I come in and I say, well, yes, he did do this, but let's look at some things you've done.
I'd like.
I thought you were going to say you're going to charge them no matter what, and just be like, "Look, I'm going to win either now or in 20 years in a different case." So
Yeah, exactly.
I consider this a victory.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer. Of course, I'm going to get paid.
Don't worry. A couple years from now, Ray Epps will be a guest of HS Precision at SHOT Show, just like Lon Horiuchi.
Was he really? Oh, I didn't hear that.
The irony is he'll be selling bump stocks.
Hey, Fifth Circuit. The bump stocks are cool again.
No,
it only took 4 years.
I think that all of this speaks to kind of, not to mention, the darknesses of the past that we've all been a part of and things like that, but it goes back to kind of like how Larry and I got involved together. But the sort of gaslighting of them saying, oh, there's no such, a bias in publishing. There's no left-wing bias or anything like that. And then you begin to actually see that there is, and it's all of these things. They say, well, that's not true. And you're like, yeah, these things are true. And they go, oh, no, you're a bigot for even, you're anti. Now, we've moved from bigot to now you're a terrorist, for even saying these things. And I think it's funny because, if you take the temperature of where we're all out, we've passed being angry and pissed off about this and are now just laughing at the insanity and criminality of them just saying, oh, the truth is not the truth. So that's my take.
Well, it doesn't happen, but it would be good if it did.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You have that.
I've heard somebody, but it's good that it is.
Yeah. I've heard that called the celebratory parallax.
Wow, you hang out with smart people, Coop. I don't know. I don't hear those words in my daily life.
I hang out with these two, so I hang out with one smart person.
Oh, yeah, Peter is.
And the irony is that he's a Marine. He literally said, he could not have said celebratory parallax back in 0311 school. That would have fried circuits. Guys would have pitched over dead. They started, what are you using parallax for?
So
celebratory fire, and it's a wedding, okay?
Pete, did you have to keep that in the closet, like you were intellectual, in the Marine Corps? Did you have to play it on the down low?
Not really. There was one point where I can't remember the word I used, but somebody else in the car said, I have no idea what that means. And I said, I'm sorry, I forgot I was surrounded by retards.
That's such a bold move, because usually what you do is oh yeah, I don't know anything.
See, it's
Pete sneaking off at a fob someplace He's got the flashlight with the red lens. He goes into a porta-john. He whips out his book and it's like Aristotle.
Come on, talk to me, can't you son of a bitch? I need some intellectualism.
Hey, what are you doing in there, Coop? I'm doing porn. Okay, get away. You gotta hide your Thomas Aquinas.
Did you say existentialism in there? No, I said boobies.
Not now. I'm drawing dicks on the wall.
Yeah, but you can combine the two, and you'd be surprised how literary some Marines are, because they'll draw the dick in a way that looks like the first letter of like an ancient manuscript.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow, it's like the Book of Kells with dicks in this.
Just hoping their gunnery sergeant goes in and is like, hey, is someone doing gunnery? No, they're not.
Right. Yeah, the scribes of the Marine Corps are pretty impressive.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the Porta-John art gets quite elaborate.
It would not be allowed on Amazon. I can tell you that.
That cover art would be okay.
To advance the conversation a little bit, like I think that initially, with respect to Amazon, like when Jason and I first started, we were kind of telling people like, hey, here's how we publish, and if you max the algorithm, these are the ways you can do it, blah, blah, blah. And I would use this stupid example, which a lot of people don't know, which is that Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, the one that got half his money, and then married like a school teacher, luckiest guy in the world.
Summer's off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm still going to teach with, let me check notes, $156 billion. Yeah, I'll be in on Monday.
I'm the principal now.
Yeah, exactly. That man, I'm the principal now. But she wrote a book. She was an authoress, and she wasn't any good because she ranked so badly. And I would point to everybody. I would say, Amazon is still good because that dude won't even push his own wife's books. And you can and I've always tried to encourage people with publishing, like, hey, this is the way to do it and stuff like that because it's fair. But what I've seen, because a lot of people don't realize, that Bezos doesn't run Amazon anymore. He might come back, and I'm not saying that's a good thing or not, but it definitely has swung in a certain way where now you're starting to see this agenda stuff come in, where they're throttling books or saying, hey, this book is too violent or whatever. It's beginning to happen, and I think we're kind of all fools for saying, not saying we're fools, but it's not ever going to be fair towards us. There's never going to be a day it swings our way, and they're like, I mean, maybe I'll tell you one thing. Supposedly, Recruiting Command is having a hard time getting people to join the military, and Jason and I write, a series basically about Rangers and stuff like that. And we're actually hearing from the Ranger Command, the regiment, they're saying we are having a hard time getting people to want to become Rangers. So perhaps the CIA will buy all of our violent books and make them TV shows so that people will go off and fight in the Ukraine. That's probably the only chance we're going to get a fair break on Amazon.
Yeah, that's the only way you're going to get guns on the cover, because Amazon will push Without Remorse and Jack Ryan and the Tomorrow War and the Terminal List. But if you're not an Amazon exclusive author, they won't push your books with, just the standard. There was a firefight on the cover. That's not even kosher anymore.
But then aren't the Jack Reacher covers isn't the gun down and the head's down and he's kind of looking like he regrets having to use it? I feel like that's the Amazon style.
Yeah, if you regret having to kill somebody, then you can have it on there.
So you can have the standard Modern Warfare cover art, whereas the generic military guy standing there with the weapon pointing down.
Right.
That all the video games are doing for about a decade there.
Meanwhile, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, you kill 200 people a minute compared to the books that
I do. I'm really good at it. I mean,
you know what? It's funny.
The rest of my team doesn't.
Here's the power of suggestion. I played the new Call of Duty, and I'm like, well, this isn't that good. And then Larry jumps on and he goes, well, I'm playing DMZ with my kids this weekend, and I had a blast. I'm like, well, okay, I'll try that. And so I jumped on, and now I can't stop playing DMZ.
DMZ is fun. It's
DMZ
fun.
is literally a legit amount of fun. And if you play it all by yourself, you end up with a mild case of PTSD.
Oh, dude. Playing it by yourself is psychotic. I got all the way to level 5 doing that, and then I finally had to give up and get a team. My team is...
the game literally tells you, like, you're doing really good. We're making you a higher priority target. And you're like, oh, come on.
Okay, now more people want to murder me.
Yeah.
No, I enjoy that. It's funny because there was this meme going around the other day. It's like, kids, don't play Call of Duty, enlist in the military. And I'm like, A, I'm old. B, I can't afford the pay cut. C, I killed 200 guys tonight, had a car chase and parachuted off a building and then ran away with $200,000 in a backpack. So it's just like real life.
Yeah.
You know that's getting clipped. You know that's getting clipped and being pasted all over your Amazon reviews.
Yeah.
No once the Ukraine fired up, I was like, oh, we're getting a new Call of Duty.
No, what's funny is for like the first month, you had legit Redditors who thought it was going to be like that and signed up. And then after that, we're like, don't go to Ukraine. Do not go to Ukraine. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow,
this is
war against the Russians is unpleasant. I mean, I didn't see that coming.
War with the Russians is unpleasant too.
That's because there's no 3 to 6 hour artillery strike. What is this? A kill streak.
Yeah.
Do not turn off your console.
I was gonna say, if Kyle Rittenhouse gets one more, he gets a UAV.
Well, they had the UAV there. He didn't even realize.
Yeah.
He would have taken control
until trial began.
Okay, I'm gonna try to wrangle us back on topic a little bit here. What exactly, for those who don't know, is Amazon doing to everybody? Do you guys think? Because I hear people talking about this a lot. Well, Amazon's doing this, Amazon's doing that, and you've been hearing grumbling about this for the last couple of years about, my shadow bans and my big tech, and a lot of it's vague and a lot of it's overblown, and some of it's legit and some of it's like, maybe you're not getting shadow banned, maybe just nobody likes your content. So does anybody know what's really going on with Amazon?
When I have a bad book, I love the shadow ban concept because you're exactly right. I can blame it on them.
Right. I think that one thing people don't understand about Amazon is just how short-staffed they are in a lot of important varieties. So a lot of what you're seeing is, it's not that there's a nefarious decision that's being made. It's that someone made a decision in a vague way. Some other guy in a different department programmed it, and then it runs amok, and then they have to go back and go. So I've talked to people inside Amazon that are in departments that are supposed to have like 100 people. Like there's supposed to be 100 author liaisons. And I'm talking to my last one, and they're like, I'm literally the only one working here. And we accidentally deleted, it was thousands of KDP accounts because they had backtraced, one guy that uploaded his suicide murder manifesto and published it on KDP, and Amazon freaked out. Someone in a different department freaked out, and just anybody that had 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon got their accounts nuked. And so you've got that going on, and you've got this rep who's like, frantically trying to restore these accounts that are flagged as, you may not delete this account, you may not do anything with this account, don't touch this account, contact me before you can touch this account. And they're like, delete, because it's a different department, they don't care. It's a giant corporation run by robots, and nobody really knows what the robots are doing. And so the slightest thing can make some bad stuff happen. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not some kind of nefarious thing going on. Like there's not some kind of concerted effort. Certainly Twitter has shown us that stuff happens. So why wouldn't it in Amazon? But I do think you have to give a certain level of respect to pure incompetence because they're over relying on bots and automation. And as a result, you're getting all kinds of stuff that shouldn't happen and wouldn't happen if you had a staff, but staff is expensive.
And they're laying off like 18,000 more of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
also it's a ripe environment for someone who is a bad actor, or someone who suddenly gets a slew of outrage emails from 12 IP addresses, meaning that a small cabal can exert a lot of pressure in that kind of environment, and so it can be legitimate. I would jump, and say when we were first doing Galaxy's Edge, Jack Ryan first came out, and our reps at Audible came to us, or one rep, and said, "Listen, we're seeing that you guys are serving the military fiction market. We've seen the number on Jack Ryan, and we want to really reach that market. We really want to push your books." And that's when we got some big Amazon contracts, Audible contracts, and it was really great. We got Stephen Lang to narrate one book, and they can really turn on the fire hose. But then it was kind of weird, like when Black Lives Matter came out, the rep literally came to us and said, "We need to let you know you're getting throttled back. It's not your time now, it's their time." So like there is that, but I think what I've seen more is like, there is such a level of incompetence going on right now at Amazon that it may actually just be incompetence.
Yeah. And then you think you double with Amazon has made a lot of money moving into ad space, and they have convinced a lot of authors to go from their 70% royalty down to a 10% royalty by just relying on KDP ads to sell their books. I know authors where, they'll tell you massive revenue numbers, and you're like, "Oh, cool. Well, what was your OR? Like, what's your actual profit?" And they're like, "Well, let's talk about the revenue numbers," right? Because all they're doing is just dumping money into ad revenue, and they're just feeding that system of Amazon where you got to pay to win, you got to pay to play.
Amazon ads became a casino.
Yeah, I've run into a lot of people who they'll brag about their revenue to establish like their street cred, and it's like, "I have $1 million in sales." Like, cool. Like, what do you actually make? "I have $980,000 in advertising."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, at least you're ahead.
And that's something else that I've noticed lately, particularly over the last few months. Ad spend has stayed while return has started to drop.
Yeah. Right.
Unless you know what you're doing on ads, or you hire like a person that, there's a lot of people I know how to do. Like, we have a person that we work with on ads, and she's super savvy and stuff like that. But we had hired other people who claimed to be able to do a lot of stuff. And it's like, if you're just in there running ads, I think you're just going to get fleeced.
So that was something I wanted to talk about, is regardless of whether it's, bad actors or just, the robots being robots, a lot of authors aren't going to be able to rely on the Amazon market the way that they used to in the past. So I was hoping like maybe we could, either bounce around ideas or brainstorm ways that you can counteract that and sort of, stay afloat and stay ahead without having to rely on that. And I think a lot of it's always going to come back to word of mouth, but what are some ways that you guys have noticed is really good at increasing the effectiveness of word of mouth? I have my theory, and I'll get to that, but I want the pros to actually speak.
I'll be the least pro, and I'll go first. The interesting thing, here's how we start in Amazon. Here's how I start in 2011. I write a book called The Old Man in the Wasteland, and I sell 100,000 copies, and it just seems like an accidental hit. And when I did that at the time, I was uncertain. I was like, is Jeff Bezos just buying sales so that he can sell toilet paper? I was unsure. Galaxy's Edge taught me that there was a there that you could actually make money and do it. And Jason and I kind of came out of nowhere and banged it out of the park with Galaxy's Edge, and began to jump on the back of this tiger and release books every month. This is all contrary to the way that Larry does it, which he has a publishing house. He can write a certain amount of books a year, gain a certain amount of sales. Like, as an indie, between like 2017 and 19, what you had to do is you had to do this rapid release thing and jump on the back of the tiger and constantly put out this stream of books to raise enough bandwidth to get you signal in the zeitgeist of the population. Hey, there's a nice word for you smart marine, zeitgeist. You guys like that one? And get people attracted to you and into your ecosystem, and constantly being entrained to buy your books. The goal is to be like Larry's audience. Is when he drops a book, everybody shows up. If he mentions a book, I bet Larry's statistically about 75% of the people are going to buy that book. If you're not Larry, for a long time it was, you had to release 6 to 9 books, and then people go, "Yeah, I like that series. This guy is in one of my constant, also bots or everything like that." Unfortunately, what happened is there were some players in the system. There was one really bad actor, I won't say his name, but he began to release a book a week. And then there's some other really great small micro publishers who began to hire ghost writers, began to put their names on books. And what happened is, where we're at now in Amazon is, unless you are a name, unless you have made it, it's so hard to get discovered and get past the people who are at the top because of their rapid release schedule, because they have their audiences and trained to constantly show up. It's really hard to punch high enough to get some kind of visibility because all of these people are constantly putting out, "Hey, here's my next in the Red Moon series. Hey, here's the next in my, this kind of Starship series," or whatever it is. It's almost, for a new author, and I think Jason and I talk about this, and he might back me up here, it's almost impossible for a new author to get any kind of bandwidth on Amazon right now. But that's not a good thing.
Do you think that's also because the Rothfuss Martin effect, where people won't buy a series until the series is complete, even though I
don't know how much difference that makes on indie, but on the trade end, it's been kiss of death for a lot of people. It's horrid. It's honestly what killed DAW. That's why DAW is now owned by the communist Chinese. It's I see it all the time, and it's for me, guys like me who are established and we have enough fan base. So book 1, book 2 comes out, people are still going to buy it. I'm fine. So even if some percentage of the audience says I'm going to wait until the whole series is done, they do, and that's fine. Because so many people got burned, and they got this mental thing that they have to get the whole series, or they feel ripped off, and we cheated them and personally shot their dog and burned their house down and defiled their wife.
That was one time.
You do that once, you never live it down.
Yeah.
You sure that was the ATF and not a fan that just got there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was describing how they're going to enforce the braces. Yeah. My bad.
Yeah.
No, but on my end, yeah, it's been a bad thing, but for us established guys, it's okay. But for the newbie authors, man, it sucks.
Yeah.
And trade pub is so chicken shit that they sign these guys and they're like, "We want to do you a 3-book," and I'm not going to name any names because these are friends of mine who've gotten screwed by various publishing houses here recently. Or so we want to do a 6-book deal, and they get 5 books in, and they're like, "Oh, well, now the last book we need to make it just paperback, not hardbook, and also it needs to be a 4-book deal now because it's just crap." And no one's buying these first books, and so they're not getting as much money. Especially for these guys who write the big fantasy door stoppers, the stuff you churn out 1 book every 2 years. Because a lot of these indie books Nick was talking about, word count of those is like 20,000 words, or what we would consider a novella.
Right.
They're just churning that stuff out. But on the trad end, Rothfuss and Martin have just. I'm trying not to swear too much. 'Cause I know we're on YouTube. They have screwed literally hundreds of good young writers. Those 2 lazy sacks of crap. And I know I say that you don't know. I mean, there's no contract between you and the fans to follow up the sequel. I have series that I can't finish for contractual reasons or profit reasons.
And it's one of my favorite series. Damn it!
I know, and I say that looking at Coop. I know exactly which books he's thinking about. Cause there's not a 3rd one, but that's not my fault. But it's that is on the trad side. That is a huge thing, definitely.
Yeah. And integrity is the basis of all business. People can come in and say all kinds of other things. Excuse me. And you can screw people once. You can lure them into your restaurant and sell them a shitty burger once. But you can't do it twice. And the good authors, the reason people show up for Larry's Monster Hunter books is he consistently delivers the experience that they're looking for. If you're going, and we're not going to have a discussion on In-N-Out Burger. But if you go into In-N-Out Burger, you want that burger, whatever it is, whatever your burger joint is. You don't want them to suddenly serve you a vegan poke bowl or say, "Oh, you know what? The chef's gone for 2 years playing video games at a company because he's a big deal now. So he can't make your burger. No slights intended. Or, he's making the convention run. So the biggest thing that any author is, and you know what? You can, if you love writing and you're a new guy, keep writing. Keep writing. I think I think we all might have an answer, and they might be different answers, and they might be this. I think the paradigm is shifting. But the one thing that I would say to everybody who's going to write a book is you need to understand that you are making a contract with the reader. And they become like you initially when you first start writing, and I bet it's the same for all of us, for Larry and Jason and I, before you're known by anybody, you get like 10 or 11 people, a small number, and they go, man, you can write. This is so much fun. I read you, and they become your friends, and they become your disciples, just like the 12. And they're the ones pushing you hard enough. And like if you treat all of your readers as the best as you can, like those 12 who totally encourage you and everything, they will constantly show up, and it's the integrity of that. But what we would see a lot in the indie space is someone would write a Space Marine series, and they'd get all these fans, and then they would say, I really want to write my big fantasy doorstopper, so I'm going to go over there, and none of the fans would follow because it's weird. Most readers are genre readers. They rarely jump around. Now Larry has that. They'll jump around for Larry and things like that.
I'm an oddity though. That's not common.
You're not statistically reproducible, so you shouldn't even be part of this conversation. No.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go play some DMZ. I'll see you guys.
But it's the integrity, whether you're and like if you don't finish that series, boy, they get pissed. And what Jason I find is, and the moment that you go, oh, great, we worked on this book for 3 months, and it's done, and we hit publish, and 12 hours later, when's the next book? And you're like, oh, you just reset the clock, man. Take 2 weeks. Give us a break. Jeez. Yeah. But they want to be served. And you know what? You could go get a job somewhere at FedEx or Dairy or drive a truck. That's great stuff. But if you're going to be a writer, they would like you to remain chained to the desk as much as you can and keep publishing books. You know what? I'm down with that end of the contract. It's great.
I think another factor in this is how accessible it is with Kindle Direct Publishing, right? When Larry first published Monster Hunter, it was self-published. It used to be called, it was print on demand. They used to call it vanity publishing because back then, if you had
I milked it.
If you had to self-publish your book, it was because nobody wanted to publish it because it probably wasn't very good.
Yep.
It was very much an oddity in having success that way. Now, anybody can just hit send on that Kindle Direct manuscript just about.
Right.
And everybody's doing it. I mean,
and it's actually going to get worse.
On my social media, on my Twitter, and on people I know, and people who I know, the people that know the people I know, I can't swing a dead cat without hitting a dozen writers or wannabe writers, right? And it's like, just standing out from the crowd is got to be difficult, especially if you're just getting started. You don't have any name recognition.
Yeah.
And
even my suggestion would be you shouldn't be friends with writers on Facebook.
You should not.
You should not, because they're horrible people. No, I mean, like a lot of writers are really horrible people. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. You kind of have to be a horrible person to be a writer. You have to be broken, and you have to be a narcissist. You have to be
calm down, Stephen King.
Not everything, but like I'm just saying, I don't fault everybody for being awful, but they are the first ones to hang you. But writers don't buy your books, readers do. And so like when someone first lured me on to social media, and they said, hey, you have all these people who love you, you should come over. I stayed away from Facebook, and this was like maybe 2013 or something like that. And so I jumped on, and suddenly I had all these writer people. And then they found out what kind of monster I am. And a lot of people know, what my beliefs are and everything like that. And suddenly I was getting, I like Jason says, like, you've been canceled so many times, you can't be canceled anymore. And it was always the writers canceling me. And when January 6th happened, all these writers wrote one of our publishers and said, you can't publish this guy. He's an insurrectionist. And literally on a Sunday with a corporation, Jason and I had to jump on the phone and have a meeting. And Jason did my defense, and he basically said, well, you knew the guy was a snake when you picked him up. The onus is on you. But I would say, just for the purposes of, if you do not use Facebook to find new readers, find fans, you use Facebook to curate the fans that you have. And writers are not your fans. Your fans are your fans. We had a glaring moment kind of this, of Jason and I. We did an event in Vegas in November. And we said, we did this Kickstarter, and we said, as a joke, we said, hey, anybody who wants to come and play this game that we just made and hang out with us, it costs like $5,000. We didn't think anybody would take it, and people took it. And so now we had to go to Vegas, and we had to hang out with them. And it was right during the 20 Books conference. So we got together, we got a suite. They had the time of their lives. They were the most awesome people. We sat there for like 12 hours straight, listened to all their stories. They became our best friends. They said even weirder stuff, not weirder stuff, but they said to us like we want to do more. We want this to happen more. They were really invested in it. Then we took them to dinner, and we had a lot of other writers that are in the indie space come and hang out with us at that dinner. And immediately the readers died. And we saw it at the table. They like suddenly felt like, oh, I'm not a writer. I should just be quiet now. And we're like, no, it's
that
all
has never
about you.
stopped me. You can ask me.
Yeah, exactly. But am I right, Jason? Like we realized,
there's a vibe change.
The writers don't buy our books. These people paid $5,000 to hang out with us, and they became our friends. Like we shot guns. Like
I missed you guys by one day. I got there the day after. I was gonna.
That's okay.
And that Brazilian steak just kept coming too, Larry.
Dude, I love Brazilian steakhouse.
It just never stopped. I was like literally pushing it in with both fingers. My wife's like, "You're gonna have a heart attack."
Yeah. Jason messaged me before because I was gonna be at 20 Books, but I was coming in late. Well, it was football season for me. That's what I cared about. I got that going on at home. I squeezed in the book stuff around the high school football, but that's over now. State champions.
More important.
We're good.
I'm seeing you playing that Steam Deck, playing DMZ at your kids' high school football game.
No, I watched as long as they were winning.
Yeah,
but they always won, so it was good.
The boys were on the field, right?
Yeah.
Jumping back to Facebook, Mike. You don't find readers on Facebook. You curate the ones that you have, and what you do is you create, just like what again Larry did with Monster Hunter. You curate a clubhouse for them to kind of hang out and engage with you, and don't have the other writers around because they're actually trying. Like I've watched them try to. We have one guy that jumps on our page and tries to poach all of our readers. Yeah. They're not going to do it, but yeah.
I actually had to set rules in because writers are very insensitive on that, and they want to poach and be super annoying. And it's hilarious to me when they go into like writer groups and pitch their books to other writers. Yeah. It's like, well, first off, we're broke. Second off, we don't have any time to read. Okay, back off.
Yeah.
Most of them can't afford a book. No, but like on the Monster Hunter page, I got like 10,000 people in there, and they're rambunctious. They're funny. And I do have a lot of aspiring
It's a clubhouse
writers.
for them. It's a clubhouse.
It's a hoot.
Yeah. It's a
weapon for me. It's actually, I weaponize it all the time against my political enemies. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But
our Galaxy's Edge fan page, we modeled it after your page, and we get nothing but takedown orders because everybody's having so much fun.
I know.
All the time. That's a sign that it's good.
Every day I go in there, it's like you have 5 more strikes against your fan base because false information. It's like, dude, every joke we make gets flagged for false information.
Every single one.
Yeah. But honestly, you guys were spot on the curating thing. So what we did is we actually have it so once a month there's a promo post for writers. Mm-hmm. So we have like one big mega post where people can put all their books that are coming out, and I encourage people to use that. But the rest of the time, otherwise they would just spam the entire thing. And then people with other businesses. I'm surprised how many like real estate agents and lawyers have got in there that are spamming their services. Yeah. But again, we give them one day a month. They can do that, one post.
We have a fun little admin team that we give a bunch of stuff to, and they ride herd on it. And they've even throttled things that I've said when I sometimes forget what my role is, and they're like, nope, can't do that here. And I'm like, yep, you're right. Got to get out, and stuff like that. But Facebook is just for curating. You won't find anybody. And a few years ago, I made a conscious effort to let go of a lot of writers because I just said, this is not where I want my space to be. I want it just to be with the readers. And then I started saying, because writers would always come to LA and they're like, let's get together. And I would say, no. But if a reader is anywhere near the Southern California area and they're like, I want to get together and buy you coffee, I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I chose readers over writers. That's led to a few weird circumstances, maybe one knife fight in the parking lot late at night, but generally it's been positive.
Right. And you won the fight.
I will say, if you're just
you were writing books, I always studied the blade.
The word of caution I would want to put out towards like to the aspirants, the new guys, right? I mean, like the Monster Hunter fan page, Larry spent like a decade building that and had a pretty better than average trajectory in popularity, right? Larry is that's not how the average writer's career path goes, right? So if you're just starting out with your first book and you've got, you know, the Facebook thing and you've got your Instagram and you've got, you know, your Twitter account and you've got a thing on Rumble and a YouTube channel and you're trying to get your email list together, like slow your roll a little bit, homie. Okay, let's get some content out there first, and then you can worry about spamming everybody with your hashtags. Okay.
Are you saying virtue signaling with hashtag writers of Twitter isn't a good business strategy?
Oh, dude, as a guy who runs a writing podcast, writers of Twitter is the gold mine for me to go out and find the dumbest crap in the universe to make fun of.
Or hashtag am writing.
Yeah.
Hey,
well,
I
you
thought
better
you were
be, it's your
celebrating that
job.
tweet that I made. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
You pick up the ebook and it's written in the Twitter thread, you know, format.
Yeah.
Published by thread reader.
Now, I gave up Facebook and I'm never going back.
I'm on the verge of it in a certain way.
Twitter is an open air asylum. I've never loved and hated anything so much at the same time.
Well, see, that's where you're wrong. That is a lot of fun.
I still get business. Like going just pure business here. I still make money off of Facebook, despite because I've never been throttled by Amazon. That's not something that's happened to me, but I have had the crap throttled out of me on Facebook to the point where I know professional marketing guys that this is their job is to advertise for multi-million-dollar companies on Facebook, and they're fans, and they look at my page and they're like, "Dude, how the crap do you survive?" And it's just the sheer fan momentum that it doesn't matter how much they throttle me, the fans don't give a crap because even if they show it to 10% of them or 5% of them, that 5% still goes nuts and tells the other 95%. So
the clubhouse, you might be throttled, but the fan page might not be, and so everybody in the group, they still get the notification.
Well, here's an ironic thing, and I'll put up screenshots of this because it's so damn funny. Every time I get banned, because they give this little message on Twitter. It's like your reach or your whatever has gone up. Like more people are interacting with your posts. So the longer my ban is, the more of those I get because it's like 28 days that you have been increased reach. Well, that's because I've been banned for 28 days, and the fans they go berserk. They love this stuff and they celebrate. They know the system is rigged. Or it's like I share in that Solzhenitsyn quote. It's like they lie, we know they lie, they know we know they lie, you know, but they lie anyway. But that's Facebook and us.
Yeah.
And then Twitter is bizarre to me because that's one that I don't really sell books there, but that's where I go to get all my aggression out of my system and like make fun of stupid people. And that's how I've managed to not get banned as much on Facebook lately because Twitter exists now with the Elon Musk. That said, it's such like he referred to it, a rolling dumpster fire, right, of code, and it's just going to crash. And it's weird because they got rid of the throttling thing, but now everything is broken for like everybody. And so for the first time ever, all these left-wing accounts are like, oh my gosh, my followers can't see me. This is so horrible. And all us right-wingers were like, it's like, get used to it.
It was so hilarious listening to AOC of all people cry about being shadow banned.
Right.
So,
I got shadow banned hard over there.
As Coop was pointing out earlier, going back to are you really being throttled or is it just incompetence? The old
that was Mike and Jason. I can't take credit for that.
Never attribute to malice what can be put down to common stupidity. However, the corollary to that is sufficiently advanced stupidity is indistinguishable from malice.
Yeah, the effect's the same. You're still not getting the reach that you normally would.
There's ways to test it too. I found ways around that to kind of test it over time, and I've kind of I'm a lot more analytical than my critics give me. They forget the whole thing where I did all that accounting as a background, you know. and auditing and stuff. So I would test it periodically with like little tests. I do different kinds of posts with different kind of features, some pictures, no pictures, links, no links, that kind of thing. And, and each one I would follow and track, and just to see how I did it.
My biggest contribution to Facebook was figuring out that if you put the link in the first comment, it doesn't throttle you as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man!
After that, everybody does it.
Dude,
So like,
save me a lot of money.
It's just a picture. It's not a link. It's like read the comments.
So the question becomes then, we know that this stuff is going to happen, whether it's malice, whether it's incompetence, or whatever. So what do we do about it? What do you do? I mean, you have indie writers, you have small press writers, you have, us who work for Baen. It's a traditional publishing house, but it's kind of the odd man out in the sci-fi fantasy world.
Mm-hmm.
But what
can I ask this question? Because it's for different people, because like your career is at a different level than Coop's career. And Coop's career is at a different level than Peter's career. And I would just say, what are you looking to accomplish?
Well,
like for your career?
That's what I'm posing the question kind of for the audience.
Okay.
For in general, because that's one of the thrusts of the stream here is okay, so we have these obstacles that get put in our path. For one thing, whether it's Facebook trying to shut down Larry's group that he's spent a decade building, or suddenly they're trying to nickel and dime Pete over his freaking cover art, or just whatever stupid shit like that comes out of it. So what can we do to maybe prepare for or work around these kind of obstacles, do you think? And
I would say, go ahead.
I think there might be some challenges in the future. Like we were talking about this last night. Some people are freaking out about Chat GPT.
And they should be. I can tell you some stories about that.
I was going to say something, but
apparently college kids are using it to cheat on their essay questions now and stuff. And my first thought is, at least for the time being, if you can get if your answers are such that a chat bot can do as well as you're just not that good of a writer. But that might change.
Wait till you hear what Jason has to tell you. Go ahead, Jason.
But a lot of people on Twitter, like in the last couple of days, are complaining like chatbot has been programmed where it won't write a poem about Trump, but it will write a poem about a left-wing politician. Like, you don't say. The people who program these things are not necessarily on your team. That's kind of when did this start, right? Like, this is what we've been talking about the whole time. So what do we do?
Yeah, so I think for anybody who wants to write a book, you've probably got a 2 to 3 year window to get in before everything changes dramatically. Because I know of some people that are actively working and investing into their own chat AIs. We all talk about Chat GPT because that's the popular one, but there are AIs that are being developed right now specifically for the task of writing novels. And the thing we need to remember about AI is that the iteration we get right now, where we say, oh, that's not good, is probably as poorly done as it's ever going to be done, meaning it's only going to get better from here. So there are some small publishers that I've heard that are planning on releasing like 3,000 titles a year just under pen names. Now, is the quality going to be there? Probably not. Does it matter to them? No, because their game already is to release as many volumes as possible. And if your volume is making $20 a day or $10 a day, that's not enough if it's one guy like really pouring his soul into a book. But if you multiply that by 3,000 every year, they're just seeing the dollar sign. So there's people already at work who are going to saturate Amazon. And that's their plan. It's already really hard, like we've talked about, to get noticed when you first publish a book. It's going to get a lot harder. And then you're going to run into the issue of, does Amazon just decide to say, well, if people are flooding the markets with their chatbots, we're going to go ahead and ban those. And then we're going to have, our new version of Kindle Vella be our chatbots, telling you your free cheap stories. And so all this leads to a need for there to be a reliable and trustworthy group. And I really think the the foundation of it is already here. When Larry's book on the Second Amendment came out, the number of people that posted their picture of the book and said, "This is what I'm reading," was huge, right? Like, and I think that like we can be with different publishers, we can be indie, we can be with Baen, we can be wherever we are. But as long as I feel comfortable shouting out a book, as long as I know that my readers aren't going to come back and say, "Hey, that book you recommended was garbage," then I'm happy to go with whatever. But that's what it's going to have to be. Whether it's Amazon, whether it's AI, it's going to have to be a group like this group here and like the people in the chat who are willing to say, "This is good, you can trust this." And then as people prove themselves as able to write something that's good and trustworthy, then you let them in. You don't big league them.
That's interesting you bring that, because I'm thinking about, because I haven't read all you guys' books, but I've read enough of your books that I have zero problem plugging you when I'm given the opportunity.
Thank you.
You know, like, I've plugged Pete, I've plugged Mike, I've plugged Galaxy's Edge a lot. Every time somebody cries about how much Star Wars sucks, I'm like, hey, you want good, you want a good version. You know, and the thing is, I think, so even if they are flooding the market with AI bought books, which honestly, a lot of the indie market is, there's some of these guys who are churning out the book a week dudes. They're just churning their formulaic stuff.
Yep.
They probably could just cut and paste half the book and give it off to one of their mini paid editors. Honestly, those guys might as well be bots anyway.
Yep.
You know, they ain't putting no heart, and they're not putting heart and soul into it. And the thing, as far as the actual quality, we might get to the point where the AI truly beats us. But in the meantime, I'm like, you know, if I lose a contest of soul to a soulless machine, I probably deserve to lose. You know,
right?
And we're all science. We've all written science fiction here, so we're all thinking through the same things. But you know, where this is heading long term, holy crap! You know, kind of mind blowing.
But Larry, in the meantime, my concern with that is the signal to noise ratio and the lowering baseline that comes from that. And you get into this sort of 1984 thing where the machines are writing the books and they're all schlock. They're all crap, but everybody thinks that's the height of literature because nobody in 1984, nobody was allowed to write the books. But
so this is actually our chance to shine. The more sea of crap, the higher the peaks that are going to stick out of it. You know, I mean, just statistically, I mean, if you take the bell curve and you really stretch it out, you know, we're still going to be the far end of it. And so the thing is, the key for us is how do we stay ahead of it? It's going to be a marketing thing, because if we can be there for the quality, and I think honestly, a lot of it, we in the past we talked about gatekeeping as a negative thing because at the time, like when we started coming up, like guys our age, our generation of writers, when we started out, gatekeeping was evil. It was basically a bunch of Manhattanite left-wing douchebags throwing out everybody who wasn't at their little tea parties, right? So gatekeeping has a bad inclination, but if we get to the point where we're in a sea of crap, then that gatekeeper thing actually becomes valuable. And then each of us with a brand that we're able to recommend friends and people we respect and can respect their work ethic, then stuff like if people are like, well, it's a Baen book, it's got Baen on the spine. It wasn't written by a chatbot. It was written by an actual thinking, feeling human.
Right.
You know? Or it's like,
you don't have feelings. Shut up.
Well, I mean, it depends on which author, because like Tom Kratman, no, I mean, no. Whatever. Tom's a sweet guy. He's actually a really nice guy. He has this hard ass thing, but he's actually a nice guy. But it's like, but if you guys are like, hey, this is Forgotten Ruin, or this is Galaxy's Edge, you know, it's got a connotation of quality, you know, and so I think we're going to wind up developing new gatekeepers, but they won't be the Manhattanite gatekeepers. It's going to be just guys like us who've developed followings and cultural followings and touchstone groups. So we know that as long as we're not recommending crap, people will still continue to trust us.
It might even be an opportunity for publishing houses to come back from the brink, right? Because I mean, what do they have to offer? Like, well, we have an author. We could offer a slate of professional writers and professional editors and give you quality work instead of stuff that was churned out by an algorithm. You know, that might be what they have to offer versus, you know, now will they take that opportunity? Who knows?
Well, and some of them need to make better business decisions. Duh!
Well, the idea behind that, though, is that you're not just talking about a parallel economy. You're talking about two very specific parallel economies. One, which is the content, which is, yeah, it needs to have the quality behind it, and that can be spread through word of mouth and recommendation and the gatekeeping. The other parallel economy is the marketing part, because a lot of marketing right now is done by algorithms. So David Reeder's question about SEO effort, search engine optimization, that's still algorithm. You're still playing it. And so as long as there's an algorithm that you're beholden to or is actively suppressing you, whether by incompetence or maliciousness, you're going to have to find something that's actually different from the algorithms to market the quality work that you're putting out.
Yeah,
I have an idea. I have an idea behind this, but it's not going to help a lot of people because it still costs money. I mean, which guy, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. But I'm thinking not enough new time or mid-list authors really put that much emphasis on or priority on ancillary art. They'll have their cover, and it'll be a badass cover, and they'll slap it on every post that they put to the internet. But you can only spam the same cover so much.
You should only post that cover when there's a buy link.
Right.
That's a big mistake that a lot of authors make is, oh, I just got this thing and I'm so lonely writing. I'm going to share this for likes and get an endorphin rush. And it's like, yeah, but there's no buy link. Don't do that.
Right. But if you can somehow scrape together the cash to fund and commission like 5 to 6 illustrations from your work that aren't the cover, that gives you some like a gallery that you can rotate out in your promotion stuff. It also gets people interested because it's not just the cover, which half the time what's on the cover isn't even in the book. And people know that either consciously or subconsciously. But if you have illustrations, you can be like, hey, this is a scene that is in the book. You're really going to like it. Here's a visual representation of it. And if you can get it in like a mix of styles, so that one illustration is in classical realism style. The other is highly stylized, like sort of like video game concept art. Another one is anime, because anime fans have tons of money. I don't know how, but they do. What you got?
You don't have families to spend it on.
Yeah. Well,
just that big giant pillow they like to make love to.
Yeah. But you can diversify your reach just by having this gallery of different art that's related to your work, and it changes it up a little bit. It spreads your reach out, and it gives your work a character that most series that have like 9 entries in them and were churned out in a month each might not have. And so I think that can actually step it up. And if one of those resonates with people and goes viral, there you go.
Yeah, that's still kind of a casino thing. I like it. It's a good idea. I've actually heard it a lot of times before. So if we take you're a new author, you're becoming an author, and you're thinking of your strategies about how to break in. That's a big investment for you on good art. You're looking at about
costs money.
$5,000, and you're gambling on that people will respond. And the truth is like I was talking about in the rapid release thing, it's a Netflix world now. So they're not going to opt in on those 5 pieces of art. They're going to opt in on 6 books. So going back to basic infantry school and things like that, your job as a rifleman is to work the rifle.
Right.
Your rifle is the word processing machine. And the book.
I'm not saying that the art thing replaces the literary work. I'm just saying that you have to have like these two working in tandem.
But let me tell you how you're gonna make more money with it. You make it after you have the audience, because like what we see in the Galaxy's Edge audience, and I can't speak for Larry, but I know his people buy everything that he puts out. Like what happens is you begin the true believers will buy as much of you as they can. If the integrity of the relationship has been established, they will buy a little patch that says hot soup. They will buy, this is the variant cover. I'll buy the variant cover. And we're exploring Kickstarter now in a certain way for more launches. And so that might be more effective to Kickstarter. But going to the basic question of how do you break through? I want to take you back to what Jason said, which is we know of a specific person, and he is a bad actor, and he has a lot of money, and he's getting ready to storm the market with 3,000 books a year. You can't break through that. Larry will be fine because Larry has an audience. Jason and I will be fine because we have an audience, and we're building a new sort of platform, subscription mode, to keep things in house. We're moving away, and this is a concept I want to talk about, which is the algorithm is agreement incapable with your business model. Meaning, the algorithm is too, like Mike just pointed out, the algorithm won't write a poem about Trump because it's been programmed not to. Now you're trusting the algorithm to sell your book, except at the end of the day, the algorithm has a human influence, and those humans have decided that they do not like knuckle-dragger, gun-loving freedom people like us. And so, of course, they're going to put some code in there that supports their agenda and not our agenda. So the thing that I would say to you is the algorithm is actually agreement incapable just because of the influence of these people, but it's actually more agreement incapable because when those 3,000 Cylons storm your one book, you can't compete. It's you don't have enough rounds in the magazine to fight that off.
Here's another thing that actually this goes along with what you're saying there, Nick. So right now we've evolved. Cause I remember when I'm old enough now, I've been doing this long enough now that I remember when I first got into this industry, going like back when New York City Book Expo was a thing, and Amazon was an upstart. And you'd go along, and there was all the different publishing houses. And one of the first years I was there, there was a guy promoting some books. So he was dressed as Satan. So he's walking around this big demon costume, right? And he walked around, and somebody goes, "Geez, where'd that guy going?" And somebody else goes, "The Amazon booth," and everyone laughed because Amazon was the devil to these guys, right? And now, fast forward, probably 5-6 years later, Amazon had taken over complete market domination. One thing we don't know, because right now a lot of people, especially in the indie sphere and the trad sphere, because Amazon is the single biggest purchaser still so it's like 100% of the market on one side and like 60-70% of the market on the other, right? I don't know. I'm pulling numbers out of my butt. Okay, I don't know what the actual numbers are, but it's huge. We don't know what's going to happen to Amazon too, though, because Amazon right now is this giant license to print money. Evil mega corporation, but as we've talked about, it's also stupid, as most evil mega corporations tend to be. It makes mistakes. It does have a lot of good, smart people there, and I've worked with a lot of them, and especially over on the Audible side, I know people over there that genuinely they're really sharp people who really know this stuff. But there's also a big corporation. We don't know actually what's going to happen. So when Amazon books does get flooded with 3,000 books from this one douchebag. And I don't know the guy. I don't have any idea who it is. But I'm guessing if you're doing 3,000 books a year, you're a douchebag. And so you do that. What's that going to do to Amazon's business too? And how long is it going to take before dissatisfied customers enable some sort of upstart to go at Amazon the way Amazon went at traditional publishing? 20 years ago, Barnes & Noble was the big dog. 20 years ago, Borders was a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Spotify's making a play for Amazon's audience now.
Oh yeah,
they're still really in their infancy, but they're coming along. But
there is a such thing as market saturation too. You can't just keep churning out more and more, chatbot written books and expect to keep selling them. Sooner or later, people are just not going to buy them anymore.
He'll cash in for a while. That's for damn sure. He'll make a bazillion dollars.
Yeah, but it's only going to work for a while, though. I think.
My fear, though, is he'll break the algorithm, which is what we actually rely on to sell books. So what Jason was talking about is one little mistake and 100 guys get banned. Well, when that level of irresponsibility happens, and it won't just be this guy, what you notice in Amazon is the moment you do anything and you push the red button of success, there's 12 off, there's 15 days later pushing the red button of success, and it multiplies. So my fear actually is that Amazon will actually break, and then there will be no sales.
Right.
Yeah, it won't be 3,000 books. It'll be 160 million books.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
As far as Amazon's concerned, though, they're in an interesting position because it's not like comparing them to Barnes and Nobles and borders and all that. I don't know if it works as well as we'd assume, because Amazon is so consolidated that most of what Amazon makes their money on is not the literary scene. It's not KDP. It's not books. It's not streaming. It's prime shipping. And the fact that you can have whatever the fuck you want shipped to your house in around 2 days.
Yeah, we're
One
around
correction.
And that's
one
that's
correction.
keeping them
The
afloat.
most of the money that they make is actually from hosting the government's websites.
That's true.
That's the big money. Yeah,
But
that's
that-
the big money.
That goes to my point, though, is they have their main, being the marketplace for whatever you want.
Yeah,
and AWS,
that was my
that's holding them afloat. It's not.
That was my fear in 2011, is that they were just using us to sell toilet paper.
Mhm.
They were just the books were just like, it's a brilliant scheme. Hey, all you loser wannabe writers who can't get trade pubs, want to put your book up on Amazon for free? And by the way, here's some toilet paper. But I think there was some truth to that. But the truth is what happened is we began to sell. Notice how they don't put out really any new Kindles or new devices. They just, but the books, what I'm trying to say is, I think that you still have to use Amazon as a channel to sell. It's still going to be viable, but there is a storm coming, and there might be some prepping in order. And I think that there are some different ways to go after that.
Yeah, because even if you get beyond market saturation, just give an example. My friend J.N. Chaney and Terry Maggart, they wrote a book called Backyard Starship last year, I think, and it did really well on Amazon. And they wrote those books pretty quickly together, probably one a month or whatever. But what you're going to see is when you have a book that you release, like a book one, and it really takes off, it's going to be, well, my AI is now going to write a complete series based on your book, right? Like you already have people that chase genres now and say, oh, what, lit RPG is hot? Here's my lit RPG. Oh, harem? I got it.
It's just training data for the AI at this point.
It's training data for the AI.
Yeah.
So it's, Nick talks about, how you need to stack books, just one after the other for the Netflix people. Now you're going to have the bar going up even higher, where it's like, well, you've got to stack a whole completed series, and you've got to do like, Disney Plus does, or whatever. I don't even know how they do their streaming shows, but like, here's the season. Here you go. Knock yourself out, kids. Here's a season. Sit down and watch them back to back to back. Or someone else comes in and completes your season for you.
Which, I mean, that sucks. That sucks for book writers, because, I mean, what we saw with the binge model with Netflix is that the word of mouth and the cultural impact came in waves. Once you binge the season, nobody's really like talking about it until the next season comes out. Whereas like the weekly release schedule, it kept word of mouth and discussion going.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to release an entire series in like a 1 month time frame, you're really hurting your momentum.
I don't know if the content creator model, like for YouTube and for TV shows, I don't know if that's in the long run, if that's practical for writing books.
No, it's not. The YouTube stuff is only practical for being a YouTuber.
It's like,
I know so many people that claim they're writers, they're filmmakers, they're video game makers, or they're comic book artists or whatever. And there's like, oh yeah, I'm using YouTube to spread the message and advertise this work. And then they never put anything out because they're always streaming 5 days out of the week for like 4 hours at a time.
Yeah, you can't keep up with that.
No, what I meant was, though, is if the standard is going to be somehow you're expected to write 6 books in a row and release them all at once, that's not going to be realistic.
I'll tell you, I always am the guy that bangs the drum that I'm the devout capitalist, treat it like a job, be realistic. And I'm very like the least artistic person here as far, I'm not an artiste. That said, for a second, I'm going to get a little artsy fartsy here. When you get the guys that are doing that, just churn, product. I'm like, who the hell buys this stuff? Well, why? Why would you do that to yourself as an artist, as a creator? As like when I die, I want people to still enjoy my books after I'm gone. I want to create something that people are actually enjoy, and they're going to get something out of it. And they're going to have I'm going to enjoy the story. And like these guys that write 52 books a year, and they're just like cut and paste rubber stamp books.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, that's working right now in the market, but I just don't know, like, how is that going to shake out? Yeah, in the old days, we had the pulp era, right? And if you look at, and, history's cyclical, and you look at the pulp era, 90% of it was crap,
Mhm.
right? But it was churn, churn, churn. However, there was stuff that stuck around from that. H.P. Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, Raymond Chandler, guys that were legit
Walter
freaking
Gibson.
awesome. What?
Well, they're not. I mean, you're absolutely right, and just they're not writers. They're business people, and they've seen a medium to make money, and that's what they're doing. And a lot of times they're not even writing it, and a lot of times they're taking the writers from the Amazon revolution, the indies, who kind of didn't punch through, and just paying them a flat rate to go ahead and write books for them. We're all artsy fartsy. We're all writers. We all wanted to tell a story and things like that. That's not bad. It is from our perspective, but they've just seen a business model. You have to go back to the Amazon page. There's only so much real estate on there. So if they clog that top page with all of their stuff, the average reader is thinking that's all there's available. There's a lot of people who don't even know that you can scroll down and click to page 2. They just think, well, what's in the top 10? These are good. This guy got a bunch of people, and so it's
a signal to noise ratio.
It was the
Right,
equivalent to the old days when it was like the airport bestsellers. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Back when
James Patterson strikes again.
Yeah, it was the same thing. James Patterson was the guy sucking all the oxygen out of the room.
He still is, just in new and interesting ways.
Yeah, but
he does 12 books a year.
Right. Yeah, every grandma in the world.
Other people do 12 books a year.
That James Patterson is a great writer because he's always there at the Rouse in their book section. It's like, well, that's not the truth. Yep. So it's coming, and what like Mike was saying is like that's absolutely going to happen. People are going to like everybody is with Netflix now, and I think it's kind of tapered off. Maybe Netflix got some. Remember, like a year ago, everybody was walking away from Netflix because there was nothing on there. So that's kind of
there was cuties on there. That's why a lot of people walked away.
There was cuties. There was a lot of like weird, like, why is this an Italian series? Why is this a Russian series and stuff like that? Like they were buying any content that they could get their hands on. So that's probably what we're seeing. Actually, is most likely the end game of Amazon shooting itself right in the foot without even meaning to do it and being so incompetent it can't avoid it. This is coming. Because, and here's the fun thing, is like I think one time Elon Musk said, just wait until the drone army gets here. And some dudes who are kind of old soldiers piped in and they said, yeah, you and your drone army, I guarantee you in 2 weeks, there'll be some E4 who's taught the drone to go get him smokes and a rip it. Like it's that. Did you see the DARPA report on the AI that was supposed to spot Marines? No.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to spot human movement from 1,000 meters away, and so they got 8 Marines to try and beat it, just to see where they were at in the development. All 8 Marines beat it because they just did some wacky Bugs Bunny bullshit.
Under a box like Solid Snake.
Yeah. Two guys walked the entire clique under a box, cardboard box, and we're giggling the entire way. Like the engineers could hear it, but the AI didn't recognize it.
Yeah,
and that is all
pruned a fir tree, and just put a ghillie suit on, and I quote the report: "Walked like a fir tree." So the Ents are marching to war, right? So
exactly.
He got there. And then one Marine somersaulted the entire way for a click. That is some PT shit. You can't fucking.
Here's an interesting thing too, because we're all old guys now. I mean, we're all aging here, and we probably grew up at a time when more people read books than they do now too, right? So what's going to happen? We've got this generation right now that doesn't read much as it is anyway. All right, like the per capita readership numbers are down. As much as people like to whine about J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling really bought us all a lot of time, right, by bringing up another generation of readers. Big thanks to her for that. What's going to happen with these up-and-coming young readers when all of a sudden all their books are churned out AI-produced crap from the same set of programmers that meet the same set of parameters? I think about how people are falling away from reading right now because TradPub turned into like just the same angsty bullcrap message fic, social justice trash over and over again, and how many readers that turned off in our generation, right?
They're called YA books, Larry.
What's going to happen? Oh yeah, YA books are awful. It just took a nosedive, right? If you look at what they're buying. What's going to happen when you take that and you turn that knob up to 11?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's that going to do to a whole other generation of readers? We got two possibilities. Either people quit reading entirely and it becomes just a niche thing, and it's going to be like people nowadays who, crochet or whatever, a niche hobby that very few people do.
The audiobook just sounds so much better on vinyl.
or the other possibility, they get sick of the crap and they seek out good, and it might be a pushback to guys that know what we're doing and know how to hit those human emotions better than the Terminator. Better. I would hope that I would be able to outplot Skynet, with good, compelling human character arcs. So I'm thinking there's two ways this goes. Either it kills books, like it ends us. It makes us even more of a niche product than we are now. And we're way less than we were generations before, because we're losing to streaming and Netflix and Spotify and podcast and everything else we're competing against. I almost added audiobooks, but I still get paid for those, so I'm happy. Mm-hmm. Or the other possibility is it dies, or it goes the other way and we have a revival where people just get sick of the crap and we find some way around. Like you said, we do some Bugs Bunny hiding under a box bullshit, walking around like a fir tree to beat this, to get ahead of it.
My answer would be to that is my answer to that is the only option you have there is to bet on the second thing. Like, we can't bet on that we're going to lose. What do we do?
Yeah, I'm not a black pill kind of guy,
No, you're not. So we have to bet on the fact that there's going to be a reading renaissance. We have to kind of think of ourselves as the Latinate monks in the Dark Ages. We have to go, well, we're going to keep the flame alive, but we're probably going to have to move away from an algorithm that's agreement incapable, either because it's manipulated or it's incompetent, and we are going to have to create our own thing. So here's like something Jason and I learned, which is we found, and see, Larry already knows this again, because Larry ultimately already knows everything. When you show up to things, you have more people show up than other authors that I know.
But not 500.
Sometimes. They just moved it up to 1,000.
Yeah, that's why they're trying to cancel him from any of these con appearances, because they know that's going to happen.
Because they know. And so what we learned in Vegas is, the personal, like, people are tired of Zoom meetings. They're tired of the distance thing. They want to get together. And what you see actually is the culture encouraging people not to get together. That's why there's no good movies in movie theaters. They want you to stay home and stream. They don't want you to get together. We could go down the rabbit hole of why that, but what we saw in Vegas, and I'll bet you if Larry did the same thing, if he said, hey, any of the whales, any of the super fans that want to get together with me, I'm going to go to Battlefield Vegas and shoot guns, and then I'm going to play games in a suite in Vegas. Don't go to Vegas. It's horrible. And it's going to cost $5,000. A ton of people would do that, way more than for Jason and I. So the first thing is they actually want to get together. Now, I don't know if you're experiencing this through Bane and stuff like that, but what Jason and I are experiencing right now is we want all your books physical. We want them all physical. We don't want ebooks. I already have the ebooks. I already have the audiobooks. I want all the physical books. A lot of people are sensing the internet's going to go away. I don't know if that's going to happen. I kind of think it might. But what's happening is the people want physical books. And so the Bugs Bunny in a cardboard box shit has to involve these two things where we say, you don't want us to get together at your cons? Okay, we're going to get together. You want us to sell using the algorithm, which can only really sell digitally? Okay, we're going to sell physical. And we're making some plans to do that, and I would encourage everybody to do that. But a great way to test this, to see if it would happen, would be like if we and Larry and a couple other authors decided to do our own Lollapalooza this summer, and we got some high-end buses, and we went around and we did like a trip to sort of California. We did a trip to Nevada, Arizona, a trip to Texas, just tested out and said, show up. And we had this little 18 van tricked out with all our books. and we sold a ton of books, and we mainly got people into our own subscription services where we completely cut out the corporations and start directly warehouse selling our books. That's a hedge against this. The final thing I've talked too much that I would say is our readers, the algorithm and the corporations have wished away to the cornfield. They don't think that those people exist because they don't want them to exist. But the truth is they actually exist, and they keep buying, and they want to buy. They want to buy even more so now, unknown, and that's the Bugs Bunny shit that I think we can do to actually keep it alive.
Where I have my biggest book signings is not in any of the traditional places they were trying to send me for many years, because that was the traditional. Go to Manhattan, go to Los Angeles, go to San Francisco. No, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas City,
Northern Virginia.
Yeah. Northern Virginia was insane. We had 150, 200 people, something in Nova last time.
Yeah,
it was fun. Oh yeah, you missed it. You were deployed. We had a hoot, and it's just regular America. The part that it's forgotten by these guys.
Yes. We had a coffee truck show up and a booze truck, and we took them to dinner, and they had the greatest time and bought a lot of books. And that's just our audience is nothing compared to yours, but like, that's what the people are seeking now, is they're seeking to get together and have these real experiences, and they're not in the big shithole cities or the bookstores. They're actually like, we have like a gun superstore in Southern California that's owned by a Marine. He's got 5 stores. He wants us to put our books in his store. Battlefield Vegas, when we did our event there, they said, well, what are these books? What are you guys doing? And we're like, the owner came out, and now Jason's making a relationship to put the guns in bookstore, the books in gun stores. So
cool.
We have to
awesome.
Put
either way
in
bookstores too.
But,
actually, though.
That is phenomenal. That's cool. That is actually finding a whole new thing, to get into.
Because we're just saying, I don't want Amazon to fail. I'm here because Jeff Bezos started a revolution on Amazon. But I have a feeling the ship's going down, so we got to find other stuff to do.
Yeah.
The problem's going to be crossing state lines. I'm told that's illegal. So.
I was going to say, when you're talking about the tour bus around America, that sounds fun, except I can't. I don't think I could enter California.
Yeah. Well, Larry and I are both in interracial marriages. He's Portuguese, and I'm married to a Portuguese person, so I don't think we can cross state lines.
Yeah, no, that. Yeah, they have rules against that. Spreading Portuguese around too much. It's too dangerous.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, look what it did to South America. So.
When I found out your wife was Portuguese, I was like, that's awesome. And plus, we're from the same general area, so that's pretty dang cool.
Exactly. She loves it. She always tells everybody. And he's 6'8", and he's Portuguese, and he writes all these books and makes all these money, because that's the Portuguese thing. Whenever they get together, like I'll watch her and her mom or dad sit there and watch like Fox News or baseball, and they'll go, Teixeira, you think that's Portuguese? She goes, yeah, I think that's Portuguese.
Yep,
like,
that is such a thing.
Yeah.
Every time we see it, it's like, I wonder which island his family's from. We immediately...
Exactly.
And that kind of, this whole conversation kind of gets back into part of what's been my wheelhouse in a lot of my books is what are the most successful insurgencies? They've been the ones that have created parallel structures, parallel institutions. And I can't help but see that's what we're in the middle of right now. We are essentially...
We just need to form our own ISIS.
Belly of the beast.
Are you saying we're insurrectionists?
I said insurgents, not insurrection.
Much better. I got to take my shirt off and get my buffalo hat.
The way that I see this going is I think that we should all really get into hand selling, which I think is how Larry started at gun ranges.
Oh, I still do. I mean, I still work, like I still go to a lot of, like when I go to Comic-Con, I don't do the like lay around guesting. I get into the bookseller booth.
He's walking around with a trench coat and be like, hey kids, want to buy some books?
No, man, and it sucks because I stand on concrete with my flat feet for 8 hours a day for 3 days in a row. And the thing is, I have a never-ending line of fans.
Yeah.
So rather than have a scheduled book signing where I have like fan, and I just got to churn them through like a factory, that sucks. That's not fun for them.
Yeah. But you don't need a convention. You just need a space where people will show up.
Yeah, I just need an advance. As long as people know it's happening in a given area in enough time in advance that they can actually get off work and drive. I've had people drive 8 hours to come to a book signing. It's crazy.
If you do it though in an event place, like if you said, "Oh, I'm going to take the fam to Disneyland, but I'm going to spend one day at Disneyland and everybody can hang out with me," they would do that. Like that's what we noticed about Vegas. If there's cheap flights in, there are people that'll actually jump on a plane and come.
See, I've never tried anything like that because I've vacationed so rarely. Like I can count on my fingers the number of vacations I've had in my adult life because of, I just keep writing books.
Yeah.
So every time I have done a vacation, it's very specifically I have not done any work stuff. Or if I do, I'll schedule one book signing there. That way I can write off my flights.
Yeah.
Nick, Jason, have you gone to the Galaxy's Edge part of Disneyland and sold Galaxy's Edge books there?
Yeah, I just took all the merchandise and said, "This is mine." I showed them.
I was like, "Jason, you can't sign the C-3PO." He's like, "It's mine. I did it."
They could have called it something else, but no, they chose our name.
Eventually, a crowd formed because they all assumed that I wasn't crazy, and so I was signing everything over there. I'm the guy under the mask in Mandalorian. Yeah.
Look, if they were there for Star Wars, they wouldn't have gone to Galaxy's Edge because that shit ain't Star Wars.
Yeah.
We did the day before Vegas. I picked Jason up in LA, and we just went to. I said, "Oh, let's go to the Galaxy's Edge." And we just walked around Galaxy's Edge plotting another novel. And it was like a really fun day. And so we said, like, you know what we should do is we should invite all our readers to hang out with us for the day and charge them $5,000. No.
It's cheaper than the Disney resort. So
and just hang out with them and do that. But I found like what I was trying to say to Larry is like when you're an independent businessman, yeah, you don't take vacations, and your vacations that you do take are sacred. But what you have to remember is the regular people who read your books, they take vacations, and if their vacation somehow involved you, they would be like, win. So like, if you picked a June date or a May date and said, I'm going to be down at this Texas barbecue place, and there's a gun range nearby, sometimes the gun thing, you're like, who's going to show up, or whatever. People will show. We don't need these conventions, and as your career is proving. The only reason, I don't think Jason and I are getting blacklisted from conventions, and I say fairly the same things that you do. You're getting blacklisted because you're successful. That's why.
Yeah. So I've already decided. Here's my plan. If I do get kicked out of this one currently, if the cancel mob is successful this time, because you never know, you're just rolling the dice on the con committee and how much spine they have. Mm-hmm. By the way, the con chair. Dude's a straight shooter. He is awesome. That guy has been on the ball. And Joel Lyons, that guy's a stud. But it's now up to the con committee. So if they do blackball me, if they do kick me out, I've already told my wife if that's the case, we're gonna go and we're just gonna fly to Virginia. We're gonna do an event there. I will buy everybody lunch at a Waffle House.
Yeah, that's it.
We're doing something,
and maybe hire some fight actors, some crisis actors to fight.
I was going to say they're going to see combat eventually. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's Waffle House. I mean, all the people on the internet. It's funny because they're talking about my hostility and my combativeness, but they got people on their side who are doing the fight me in real life, and I'm like, no, random internet weirdo. I don't fight random weirdos on the internet. I'm 47 years old. A.
I don't commit crimes.
I don't commit crime. B. Okay, even if we went back to Code Dulo here, jackass, I'm higher social status than you. I can bring in a proxy champion, and guess what, asshole? I got MMA champions who freaking read my books. Guess who I'm going to bring in for? I'd be like, hey guys, anyone want to bend this dude into a pretzel for me? No problem.
But you'll just get the real life inspiration for Ultimate Lawyer.
That was actually based on an actual dude. So yeah, that's not a problem. He was like, this is not an issue. But, yeah. So if I get blackballed, I'm going to go to Virginia, and I'm going to do something for my fans.
You will have a great time, and if you have tiers, and you have if you say what's the premium experience, there'll be a certain amount of people who will pay that, and you will make bank. And then there's a lot of people who just want to show up for like a talk or whatever. But if you organize it and break it down, kind of like a Kickstarter, where do this and these things in this level, I think you'll be surprised at how much you'll earn. If you plan it just right, and like you said, maybe Virginia, but if Texas is your wheelhouse and you figure out something like that in Texas. But what I'm trying to say to someone like Coop, that's part of the way to go. That's, it's probably not Amazon, but if you keep writing books and you have something to work with, the readers are going to go somewhere, even if they have to go to a Waffle House at 3:00 in the morning to show up to meet Larry. They'll do that. They're not going away.
We're kind of, in a way, like, once again, history circular, we're kind of reinventing the early days of science fiction fandom, where people started doing get-togethers to get with the people that they like. And I think we got away from that on the personal level just because of technology and the internet. But like you said, with COVID and stuff, we're sick of this crap. And plus, that system that we've been using has gotten corrupted by the worst people in the universe.
And also, like the cons and everything, that all started out as just small things that were run by people who are true fans. And it got bought out. It's all very corporate now. I mean, like, look at Some are corporate. Some are
the one in Chengdu is legit.
Others are not. It just depends. But some of them still have that original hometown feel, like Liberty Con. I think you guys have all been there. It's freaking awesome. It's a hoot. But it's a family thing, right?
But it's probably all collapsing because we see like Dragon Con kind of went sideways. Like you're gonna see like the people who are interested in ruining this don't stop. Like when we start playing DMZ at 10:00 at night, or eat some chicken wings, they're still going to meetings. They're still in chat rooms. They won't stop until you're done, until you're erased. They won't stop. So I think
honestly, that's why. Yeah. I lose money by going to cons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My writing time is
buy all their shit.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I go to a con, and the reason I still go, I don't get much out of them business wise anymore. But the reason I still go is because I don't want to let those assholes win. Every con that's brave enough to invite me, I'm going to support them.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's what. Well, provided I still have time, I had to write books.
Yeah.
But
the book is the main thing. The book is
these
the
guys
main
don't
thing.
quit. They're like the freaking Terminator. They will not quit. They will not stop because they have no lives.
Yeah, this is all they have. You have
they're miserable.
You have football
bitter.
with your kid, and this is getting people canceled. And when they can't cancel us, you ever notice they turn on each other? Because
guaranteed. Yeah. Oh, dude. Okay, I got to vent here for a minute because I've had a couple days of just being like, double barrel.
This is what you came here for, kids. Buckle up.
At what point in time, because these people are miserable cranks across the board, every single time this has happened to me, and this has happened to me a lot, and every other writer I know that's had this happen to where they got canceled, you go and then we talk to the locals who know these people in real life, and every single time, you know what they say? Oh, that prick. And then they'll tell us like, oh, his wife left him. He got fired for his job. He just wound up with the sex offender registry. Mm-hmm. This guy's a train wreck. Drugs, alcohol, alcoholism, pathetic loser, living in his car, can't keep a job, so on and so forth. That's all of these people because, as Tony Weisskopf told me one time, for them the stakes are so high or the stakes are so low. That's why they fight so hard. Mm-hmm. They're just pathetic freaking losers, and they can't abide anybody having fun. That way, when we screw them, when we keep going and we're having fun, they sit in the corner sucking their thumbs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they're terrorists, and they feel powerful whenever they can push people around and boss them around. And what gets me is at what point in time did they decide that the guest of honor, the guy who sells millions of books, the guy that draws a big crowds, let's say John Ringo at Con Carolinas, right? Big deal dude. Hundreds and hundreds of people are going to come see John. They love John. John's awesome. But John's feelings don't count. He's the guest of honor, but his feelings don't count. But you know whose feelings count? The guy who rents a table in Artist Alley to sell dog shit sculptures. Like literally, they're made out of artisanal dog shit and varnish, and he's going to sell those. And his feelings count. Mm-hmm. We've reversed the thing because we let the worst people in the world run our system and take over our system.
Yep.
And you know what?
If they can do that to a guest of honor, imagine just being some schlub who's also trying to go to the Artist Alley thing. You run afoul of
the dog shit artist.
Yeah, the people on Twitter, they tell the con to cancel that guy, and the con's like, they don't have to wait. It's like, well, is it the guest of honor? It's like no, this just isn't worth the trouble. Let's
and it ain't me. The thing is, it ain't me. It is not about me. It's not about John Ringo. It's not about Nick Cole. It's not about Jason. It's not about Mike or Coop or Pete. No. We're interchangeable to them. They don't give a crap.
Right.
It's whoever comes on their radar enables them to be a target. And then every single place that boots us, what happens? Those people are already addicted to outrage, and then they go for everybody else. And they start eating all the people that have the right politics. Doesn't matter. You're going to do something that crosses their line, they're going to come for you. George Martin, most successful, richest author in the world, or maybe it's just him or J.K. Rowling, or maybe it's James Patterson, but he's up there, right? So we're talking top 5 authors on Earth at the time. His giant lard butt gets canceled at friggin' Worldcon after he stuck up for him. The same people I warned him about cannibalized him for mispronouncing names, which, on that note, cry me a river. My last name's Correia with 4 vowels.
I feel so bad for that lady.
Yeah, poor Mike. Nobody can say a Finnish last name. I mean, and the thing is, but they canceled him, and then they gave her a Hugo for the speech canceling him. And it's like, I'm like, and I just laughed. I laughed, and I was like, dude, I friggin' warned you. I told you. And then all these old 60, 70-year-old people have been in fandom who hated my guts, called me a barbarian, called me every name in the book. They all come to me, and they're like, now on the download, not in public ever. Well, some of them finally in public. They're like, well, yeah, you were right. And all that stuff you said came true. And I'm like, well, no kidding.
They won't say that online, though. They'll say that to your face, but they won't say it out loud because they don't want to be the next target.
Well, that's the other thing. Like you said, Coop, like the guy who wants to sell his own brand of artisanal dog shit, that guy, he's just not going to say anything at all because he knows, right? Like, it's like he knows I can't say anything. And that's as big a part of it, right? Just to get you quiet and in lockstep.
Well, there's two parts of this, too. It's like, number one, the revolution can never stop, comrades. Because, it's all they have. I mean, look at how many. There are people still writing articles about Gamergate. That was in, 2014? Gamergate gave us Trump. Gamergate gave us January 6th. It's like Kotaku is still talking about it. We just were talking about you were talking about the chat AIs and like writing novels in the next couple of years, that kind of thing. Before we're in trouble, you know what business is really in trouble, and they're all going to get put out of work?
BuzzFeed.
All the reporters.
Yep.
Because think about, now I'm not just talking about BuzzFeed, I'm talking about all, like 90% of journalists can't write.
We told them to learn the code, but the code learned them.
They're doomed. Think about how bad every news article is you've ever read, right? Like most newspaper articles are crap, right? By professional writer standards, they convey no information. They already might as well be written by bots. So why are you going to pay all these losers? I'm excited for once about technology putting people out of work on this one.
Whenever you search for anything on the internet now, like the first page is all these listicles that are like the best X of 2023. I'm convinced those are written by algorithms already.
Yeah, I think actually, like most of the newspapers, the ones that Soros bought, are all algorithm written now.
And I'm actually convinced that nobody reads those articles. It's just click bots. Clicking on articles written by right bots.
We live in cyberpunk. We live in the cyberpunk future.
And it's
they can't kick us out. They can't.
The cyberpunk dystopia is so much lamer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I thought by now I'd have a robot eye. I'm just saying. Where the hell? I don't have a cyborg arm.
We jumped the gun on the fashion thing because everybody was dressing like the Matrix in like the early 2000s, and then that went away by the time that the cyberpunk revolution actually happened. Now everybody dressed like Apple geniuses.
Yeah, it's Blade Runner but with Snuggies.
On that note, that's why I hate John Fetterman. Not only for giving the Democrats the Senate, but being a potato. But John Fetterman ruined my look. Everything I own is like a Carhartt hoodie. I'm 6'5", 280-pound bald guy with the facial hair. Along comes this friggin' potato, wearing my clothes, my face, and I'm like, "Are you friggin' kidding me?" I get a doppelganger.
You have a shot at running for
Senate.
Okay, I can't say anything yet, but talk about politics. This is funny as hell. The gun book has actually struck a chord in certain parts of America. And it's funny because I got all my little pissant haters crying about me and stuff. Like, we're always calling. And they're too stupid. They don't know anything about guns. And they're trying to rebuke my gun book, and they're just dumb and it's pathetic to watch. if what I'm working on goes through next month, I'm going to do something with some rather important people, and I'm just going to laugh. I can't tell you guys yet, but if this goes through, I'm going to laugh my ass off, mostly because of how much it's going to piss off all these little harpies. Because they hate me so much. So the idea of Larry Correia like flaunting around at upper echelons of politics, getting schmoozed, is gonna slay them. So yeah, I hope this works.
They need Straw Larry to be the reality. Like they always need to other us and make us feel bad. And then when they see you like enjoying life, they're like, they just want to eat their livers. But you know, that's.
Did you see my FUAMA?
I did, yeah.
I was like, I'm going to go back and check it after this. I know, yeah, Coop saw it 500 times, but I'm really hoping I get some crazy psychos going in there and asking me some hard questions. I mean, I wasn't joking. I was honest. I'll answer anything. I'm not hiding nothing. If I believe something, I believe it. I don't need a lie.
Right.
You know?
But did they use the argument that guns are bad?
Oh, yeah. It's so funny because like it's the dumbest. And I got this one moron from Australia. I don't even know if the dude's ever touched a gun, and he's trying to freaking refute my gun book. And his refutation is like, I don't believe that. Well, no one cares. You're an idiot. It doesn't matter.
Well, number one, Larry, you're wrong. How about that?
You were better with guns. 2 wars to emus.
Right.
Australia is not even a real place. Not like Warren McNally. You know?
Just so you know, we gave up all our guns in 1999, and when totalitarian fascism came along, there wasn't a damn thing that we could do about it, and we loved it.
First of all, we got
the concentration camps weren't that bad. They had Instagram thoughts there.
Exactly. It was lovely.
I hope the emus kill them all. No.
That'll get you in more trouble than the gun book.
No, it's just funny. Okay, to be fair to Australians, I've actually met a lot of Australians in my life. And the funny, ironic thing about that is there's 2 kinds of Australians: cool, chill dudes, like cool guys. They're just chill, and the biggest stuck-up pricks I've ever met. There's like no in between these two. Every Australian I've met within the first 3 minutes, I'm like, oh, you go in this bucket. I don't know. There you go. See, look, we found a group I'm bigot against: stuck-up liberal Australians.
Yeah, it's a niche hate, but it's hilarious.
A very niche hate group. Pro emu.
I think they also lost a war to rabbits too. It's like any animal. It's not even the animals that like Australia is famous for having like poisonous, venomous, dangerous animals. It's emus, which they're pretty terrifying, and rabbits. It's like
first of all, they've got
stingrays. So
I mean,
I love how all the accents come out in this segment.
I'm telling you, that rabbit's a killer.
Yeah. Hey!
I think one time Australia burned down like all of it, because they couldn't deal with basic fire.
First part of 2020, I remember before COVID hit, was the Australian wildfires, and everybody was talking about how that was like the worst possible thing that could happen this year. Oh no!
That's why I'm convinced that the Mad Max movies, they're not in a worldwide apocalypse. It's just Australia. The rest of the world is just like fine. Man, I haven't heard from the Southern Hemisphere in a while, and Australia's just over there in like motorcycle fetish leather and.
There's still an airport in Tasmania.
Calling it gasoline instead of gasoline.
I run Bullet Town.
Not too bad, Raggedy Man.
Did you see? Is that the Tina Turner quote? Yes.
Yeah.
In her 50-pound chainmail bikini.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who wore it better, her or Bennett in Commando?
Bennett. Bennett, who also isn't he Australian? Like, isn't he gay and Australian?
He was one of the main bad guys in Road Warrior.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Blow off some steam, Bennett.
The funny thing is, if you look at like stills or like post-production shots of Commando and Bennett's in there, like, and it's Schwarzenegger doing his dumb, big, goofy Austrian smile and everything, and this guy is just side-eyeing him, like, just whatever, just pay me the check, I'm out.
We're having a great time, Bennett. I'm gonna stick you.
That said, that movie did really make me want to Valmet with that RPK stock, with that really cool machine gun stock on it. Yeah, I still want to Valmet with that.
I did like the part where he needed to go raid an island, so he went and robbed a gun store, and they just had an M202 flash launcher in the back.
Yeah. No. It was actually, if you remember, it was like a military surplus store, but there was a hidden wall.
Oh,
where they kept all the good illegal stuff.
Yeah,
it was
as all gun stores have.
Of all the classic lines in that movie, my favorite is still from Bennett after like the Valverde guys are just like, oh yeah, we could stick a knife in that little girl. He's like, yeah, your boys are trying to act all tough, and it's like tough. They're talking about killing a like 6-year-old girl, dude.
Well, to be fair, it was Alyssa Milano.
Was that Alyssa Milano?
Yes, it was.
Adult Melissa.
I wish Bennett would have. Oh my gosh, they failed us.
Adult Alyssa Milano.
Tomorrow's headline: Larry banned from everything.
I'm suddenly rooting for the bad guys in Commando. All of a sudden, I didn't realize.
The level of hit fire in Commando is stunning. Yeah. Like, I don't think he ever brings a rifle up to his shoulder and sights ever in that movie.
Well, what I think a lot of people don't know, and Larry can back me up on this, is most people raise the stock to the shoulder because it's too heavy. But when you have guns like Arnold, you don't need to do that. You just hold it at the side, and your accuracy does not suffer.
Yeah. And he was still, and the argument is that he was actually the Terminator who had a kid. He still had the targeting eye.
So it was the Dark Fate plot line before that movie came out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what was that joke as far as like when you retire from the military, you got to make sure you have like the space next to your cabin out in the woods where the helicopter can land. So Pete actually has this at his house. He has like the space for the helicopter to land when they need him in case of an emergency. Get ahead.
He's been chopping down all those trees.
Because they're going to say, you're a hard man to find, and you got to come back with, well, clearly not hard enough. Like when you're fishing or something.
Kneeling, you son of a bitch. And then the handshake. And
then it was like the veterans in real life. I want 45 chicken nuggets.
I like that they whack most of his team, like in the very opening scenes, and they're all schlemiels. They're like, one guy can't get his garbage out, and he just gets iced by somebody with a submachine gun. It's like, so he was the only good guy on the team. Is that what you're saying?
Or, to be fair, though, most of the guys I know when they get out, they all get fat. So, I mean,
that's the truest part of that movie is everybody just tuned out. Except for him. He's like, I'm going to carry a tree around because I might need to kill everybody.
Well, that's the same way with, what's his name? Chuck Norris's Matt Hunter in Invasion USA.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
of all the places you're going to launch your invasion of mercenaries in the United States, you choose the one town that this guy is just trolling around hunting gators and shit.
In their defense, they did try to blow up his little bayou shack.
Yeah.
Like they thought they got him. Like they knew what
I keep telling Mike that he's got to get a second Mac 10 and get the double holster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Really.
But we can all agree that Lone Wolf McQuade is the greatest movie ever made, right?
It's classic. No, I am in the school of Die Hard is the perfect movie.
I like Die Hard.
That is to me, and I'm even putting my writer hat on for that. I stand by that. I think Die Hard is the perfect movie.
It is. I agree. Yeah.
I will die on that hill.
Yeah. Jason gives this great talk on like why a lot of modern writing is failing. Because everybody is missing out on the fact that really great writing is just 80s pro wrestling. Sure. And Die Hard is basically 80s pro wrestling.
It was Shakespeare in leotards,
Yeah. Well, I mean, what is Shakespeare? They talk about Shakespeare as the bard, the greatest storyteller of all time. And if you look back culturally, it was dick jokes and sword fights and action, adventure, pulp, monsters, crazy intrigue. Dude, Shakespeare would be on this podcast with us right now, blackballed from cons.
Exactly. Shakespeare's very inappropriate. I don't feel safe with him.
Shakespeare
he keeps talking about gouging out eyes.
I
He
identify
said
as
mean
would say,
things.
and puck is cultural appropriation.
He said mean things about witches, and I'm a witch.
Well, if nothing else, you'd know they'd cancel him for Othello. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Right.
so here's a question for you guys. It might be interesting. So we've been talking a lot about what the future brings in. You know, scrolling kind of right-wing Twitter. There's a lot of doomers out there. There's a lot of black pillars. There's a lot of neurotic weirdos out there, right? A lot of people think the world's coming to an end.
And Mike keeps track of them all, just so you guys know.
Not all.
I'd like to say, Mike, I'm feeling personally attacked.
I've become a. I like to browse the open air asylum that is Twitter, and I've discovered the funniest schizzos with the biggest followings, and it's hilarious.
He sends them all to me.
I send them to everybody. It's not just you.
Yeah. Coop and I do too.
Oh, Pete.
Yeah. No, it's like, oh, Mike sent a message. I look at it, it's some schizo talking about how like you need a trad wife so that you can make like dairy products out of breast milk or some shit. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
He's not kidding. He's not kidding. And all of that was a part of this guy's Twitter profile that sells jerky.
Yeah.
Is it Patriot jerky? Because I bought some.
Sometimes
It's
these
not bad.
messages
It's
come
not
at like
bad.
6 in the morning too.
What I'm asking, what I'm going to ask though, is a lot of people are feeling pretty pessimistic about the future right now. It's been a pretty rough couple of years,
Sure.
in a lot of ways. So, and now we're talking about we might get put out of a job as writers because of a fucking chatbot.
Mike Saul, I'm never having Nick and Jason on here. Those two.
So what I'm saying is though,
That's why it's on Pete's channel.
what?
Oh yeah.
What is the good? What is the potential for the future? What is the upshot of any of this, if any? Because there are a lot of people out there, I think, in the world right now that are they're overwhelmed by all this stuff that they see on social media. It's a constant stream of how awful everything is, and they kind of lose track of the reality of their situation. They think things are worse than they are because all they see is a constant stream of bad. So is it really that bad? Are we really all screwed? Is culture doomed? Has the West fallen? So
No.
what do you guys think?
No, it's a feedback loop from the algorithm telling you like what you engage in, it's what it feeds you more of. So if you can inch your way in there and break them from that, there's going to be a preference cascade and the dam is going to break if you offer them actual like escapism. So I think that's where this panel can actually like really fucking shine.
Yeah.
I
Honestly,
would say. Oh, go ahead, Larry.
No, you go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, like the thing that we were just talking about is great movies from the 80s. So they're not making let's all imagine that we were writers in the 80s trying to compete with Commando and Steven Seagal movies, which were good. Don't knock them. Stallone
Anybody see
movies
what
like Missing in Action. Like imagine trying to compete with those movies because I think that's a lot of our readers. Like when we mention those movies, they're like, yeah, that was great. Well, the cool thing is, like the bright spot is, they're not getting any of that anymore. We no longer have to compete with the biggest competitor. We actually have that audience all to our own now because they wished that audience away to the cornfield. So, and I know that a lot of things I said sounded like doom and gloom. No, it's great. You have all these people to yourself now. And then a lot of your fellow writers have been told that they get virtue points and leveled up if they hate them too. So you actually, like, even sometimes, like, there's like big time military science fiction writers in indie who actually hate the military. They get outed eventually, but we actually have less people to compete with. But the main thing is we really don't even have to compete with Hollywood anymore. And that was our biggest competitor. We have all these people who just like fun, who think Die Hard is a great movie to ourselves. We just have to make sure that the supply line is open.
Hear that, chat? You're not stuck in here with us. We're stuck in here with you.
Yeah.
That backwards.
Yeah.
I'm now rethinking that point that Nick made about making a contract with your fans.
No, but the only problem that we're facing right now is supply. That's it. The audience is totally there and they're starved. They're absolutely starved. And they will buy en masse and everything. Like the only problem we're having is supply. That's it. Yeah. And it's not really that hard of a problem to overcome. It's very easy.
No, honestly, because like I've talked about this before with other big name writers and some who I won't out. But I was having a conversation with a huge big deal writer, and he was kind of lamenting to me. He's like,
Was it
"You
Amy
realize-"
Tan?
No, no. But he just said to me, "He's like, hey,
Sutter
Larry,
Kane?
no, quit guessing." He's like, "You realize if this had been 20 years ago, and we were writers 20 years ago, and they had rebooted Star Wars, all right, and got rid of the expanded universe and had the brand new Star Wars thing, the guys like me and you would have been the very first guys they would have called to write those books. Big action adventure, huge IP. Like, we would have been the first ones because we write action adventure. We know how to write heroes. We know how to write villains. We know how to write, adventure stories. Who did they call? A bunch of friggin' idiots, right? And they opened with just a bunch of up their own butts dorks, right?
Yep.
And social justice weenies who couldn't write adventure out of their if their lives depended on it. And so you're right. Like the big it's not just Hollywood, but everything tied to that, the big powerhouse stuff has lost its way.
Yep.
Every now and then they do still create good products, but a lot of times I think that's because someone slips through the cracks or some showrunner managed to keep their integrity, or there's some dude like Henry Cavill who's just like, F you, I'm Henry Cavill, I do what I want. There's somebody like that. So we still get good products, but for the most part, the big corporate mega entertainment industry it's too up its own butt.
Right.
And one of the things I got going for me is I came out at a time where I was finding all these people who they felt forsaken. They hadn't read a science fiction or a fantasy novel in 10 years that didn't insult them.
Mhm.
Yep.
And along I come, and we're going to shoot evil in the face and get paid. Yeehaw!
Mhm.
And I think that's one reason I
Exactly.
made the genre jump too, is because there's people from multiple genres who were just bored. They hadn't read a book in years.
They're tired of being told they're awful people. They just want to have fun.
Go to the cornfield, like you said. Why is Yellowstone the biggest TV show in America right now?
To annoy Pete.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
Or
'Cause
Top
Pete's like-
Gun, Top Gun 2 is still the #1 movie selling on Amazon.
I love Top Gun too. I've never
It's
seen
awesome.
Yellowstone, Pete. Out of deference to your cultural appropriation.
I haven't seen it either. It's all the Californians trying to move here because of it. That's the problem.
Right.
I don't know
Sorry,
how
man.
Florida and Texas
I
feels.
just see the river runs through it, and I think of Peter. And that's it.
But I mean, like, our audience did not go away, and they're growing. And there's a next. I just got an iPhone today, and I was talking to the young kid. Oh, what do you do? I go, I write books. And he goes, I love reading books. And he was a young guy, and probably pretty left and everything like that. So it's still there. It's just the problem is the agreement incapable algorithm, and the corporations want to make sure that we have no place at the table. But that doesn't matter. They're out there. Literally, I would challenge Larry. Go have that Waffle Hut thing. Just walk away from the con. Go have the Waffle Hut thing. You will see, and drop ship a crate of books.
I'm
a
not
bunch of
not
books.
walking away yet for one reason.
No.
There's only
Yeah.
one reason I have it, and that's because the con chair has been a stand-up guy, and he's put it on the line for me.
Yeah.
And he's willing to get fired for this because he's taking a stand, and I got to support that. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with that. But what I'm saying, or plan another Waffle Hut thing in a prime location, or do something with Jason and I, and you will see a stunning level of people show up and want to interact and walk away. We will actually make money. Like we made money in Vegas. We made money getting together with people that actually like us. Instead of what they did in that convention was they changed. See, have you ever hung out with David Weber?
I love David.
Right? Yeah.
I love David.
You know what you notice about David Weber? David Weber lives in his fiction. Like, I did a writers thing with a bunch of writers, and he was a guest of honor, and we just wanted to talk with him about what he knew about publishing. He doesn't know anything about publishing. I don't say that disingenuously. What he knows about is David Weber verse, and he'll just sit there and tell you stories. Well, that was in the 6th book of this, and that was when I thought of this device for these missile systems and everything like that. He loves his fiction, and the people that read his fiction love his fiction, and they want to have that conversation with him all the time. And that's what the convention should be. Yeah.
He's such a genuinely good dude. Like, and actually, we've had events where me and David have been together, and we've had people who was like, They look at David and they look at me and they're like, "Are you Larry's real dad?"
Exactly.
It's like, no.
But that's what the readers of what your readers want is that experience.
Yeah.
But what the mean people do at the convention is they change it to this thing, this drama.
Yeah.
And so now that's there. When really these people don't want that. They just want to get together with David and listen to, Orion missile systems from the third book of the honor, this thing and blah blah blah.
David's actually an interesting thing because he's the best-selling author at Bayan by far. I'm number 2. But David beats me by quite a bit. He is so successful. Been doing this 30 years. And one of the things that like with the algorithm, David can't be stopped by the algorithm because his fans will seek out David. Even if they don't see that there's a new David Weber book, if they will go and look. It's like, I haven't seen a book from David for 6 months.
Yeah.
They will go
They
out on
have
the internet
uniforms.
and see.
They have an army.
They have. We call it the Imaginary Space Navy. The Royal Manticoran Navy. Actually, true story. I got drafted into one of the. Because here's the thing, I don't know anything about it. So my wife actually got made royalty because she's so popular. The Webbers love Bridget so much that they appointed her as royalty. And I was abducted into the Imaginary Space Navy, and they made me Bridget's dependopotamus. Because I was just there, I was just useless, and then they said,
shouldn't it be a dependent manatee or something like that? Like,
well, no, Bridget is Lady Yardmoose. And that said, David did put me. There's a Rear Admiral Correia in the Honorverse now, which is pretty baller. So David's a stud. He's a great dude. But yeah, he's a great example going right to the fans, man. That guy.
Exactly. And our job for those readers when they get together, like what I noticed in Vegas, is they wanted to ask us every question about the books. They wanted to talk about everything. Like, it was kind of overwhelming because you're like, I don't think I know everything.
I don't remember.
They knew it all, and that's what they're there for. But when they play these games at the cons, they want to make it about politics. And of course, you're going to get people who think, I need to show up. I mean, like, I remember one time I did a con in San Francisco. Why I did that? And literally, I was ambushed, and like at the end,
trying to get hazard pay for the month.
This one guy says to me, he goes, "I would never shake hands with a war criminal." And I'm like, okay, just
that sounds badass, though.
You're like looking around for Slobodan Milosevic,
Exactly. At the time, I thought it was fun. I didn't know it was a war crime.
It's never a war crime the first time.
Yeah.
Shake hands with danger.
It's not a war crime if you win.
Exactly.
It wasn't a war crime when I did it, but you could say I'm kind of the case study.
Yeah. But it's the readers,
the
and
only
it's
one on
fun.
the panel who's actually had a war criminal number.
It's the readers, and it's fun, and it's maintaining the lines of communication and supply open, regardless of what Amazon does, whether it becomes Spotify, whatever. But I would just say, you want to make a move in your career. To anybody listening, get rid of being in the writer group. Stop doing that and start prioritizing readers. If you just have 5, 6, or 10 or 11, well, there's this guy named Jesus, and he changed the entire world with 11 guys. So you can take a small group of dedicated people. We've had people in the Galaxy's Edge universe, and they're full-on operator types. And this one told us they were hanging off a helicopter, strap hanging, and they look over at the other team that's there, and they had some GE stuff on their kit, and they're like, "You read that?" And they're like, "We do too." And what you find is, like, the true believers will go out and sell your books for you harder than the algorithm will.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is still the single most powerful thing in marketing for any industry.
Yep.
Just how it is.
Yeah, Pete, didn't you have that happen with your shirt in the gym?
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah,
It wasn't free mustache rides, was it?
No.
No.
I was downrange when I was still working on a contract, and I had a couple of American Praetorians T-shirts left, and I was wearing them for PT gear. And I did get a couple of questions about them. I was like, "That's a really cool logo. What is that?" "Oh yeah, it's actually the fictional mercenary company I story.
You had to dispel the rumors that it was a rival group that you were working for.
Well done merch, and that's the big key. And I'm not somebody
you just kind of wonder about advertising in general. Like, I remember the big red ad jingle from 30 years ago. I don't know that I've ever bought a pack of Big Red gum. So is it really effective advertising?
If you don't like Big Red, then fuck you. Okay.
We'll settle this later. All right.
I had a pack of Big Red gum like this thick at the 78 Yankees-Dodgers game at LA Stadium. And it was one, Reggie Jackson hit 2 home runs out. I can't even remember that. I just remember how many pieces of red, Big Red I could get in the side of my mouth and feel like I was Thurman Munson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, solid.
Yeah.
See, Mike, apparently it works for some people.
Yeah.
But Coop's going to fight you. Nick has gone back to his childhood.
Well done merch. And I'm not someone who you should listen to on Well Done merch, but Jason is. Well Done merch, like, can just triple, like double, quadruple. It's just like, but it's weird. Like, things that you think will work don't work, and then wacky stuff does. We did we took the GI Joe logo and put KTF, like did the colors. That hat, like every question is the hat back? Can we have the hat?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I am lucky I got a guy, Jack Wilder. A lot of you guys know him in real life. Dude's a stud. And I've teamed up with him for basically the last decade. He was a dude I knew from the gun business before because he worked for one of the gun companies. I was one of their best dealers in the country. And that's how we got to be friends, because when he found out I self-published a novel, he bought one. I sold it to him over the phone while buying guns from him. Mm-hmm. And we've been together ever since. And he just took over my merchandising for me right out the gate. And so I've had this wonderful merch guy the whole time. And we just basically split the proceeds, and he does all the work. Mm-hmm. And he's actually funny because now he's moved on. He does this for a whole bunch of authors and offers his services to other authors. So if anybody wants a really good merch guy to like develop some ideas and bounce some ideas off of, and he'll give you good advice. And if you pay him, he'll do this for you. But Jack Wilder, you can find him on my thing. I recommend. I love the guy. So
he's basically Larry's consigliere.
Yeah, he is. His official title is the marketing daimyo of Correia Tech, and I'm the Shogun. Actually, on the corporate thing, that's my corporate title is Shogun of my S Corp. Hey, it doesn't. You don't have to be president or CEO. You can be whatever you want.
Right now, the IRS is like, what the fuck?
Right. So you're saying I should have put Dux Bellorum.
Right. Yeah, no, you should have. Well, we've got an employee named Walt Robillard. And his official title is Chief Trunk Monkey, and so it's on his business cards actually.
30,000 new IRS agents who are like, oh, these guys think their new names are funny. Huh? Oh, that's an audit. That's definitely an audit.
When I was in the gun business and I worked with Mike, and Mike will vouch for this, my official title was Combat Accountant, which was bestowed on me by one of the guys there. Which is funny because I was the only guy that wasn't a vet in like the whole freaking thing. Everybody else was, but I was also the best shooter. And we would go to these events and we would do shooting stuff and all that kind of thing. At the time, I was like pretty tuned up doing competition, and everybody be like going down the line and like who was where. And it was like, I was like Special Forces, Marine. They're going down the line, and they get to me. I'm like, accountant. And so then Marcus was one of the guys we worked with, gave me my title. And he's like, it's fine. He's like, I vouch for him. He's cool. It works.
Weren't you a G.I. Joe character, like Spreadsheet or something?
I am, yeah. I am officially a G.I. Joe character. Because Chuck Dixon, who writes a ton of comic books, Chuck is a stud. I mean, you guys know him. Awesome guy. Chuck is a freaking legend in the comic book industry. And Chuck one time contacted me because he had some gun questions because he's writing G.I. Joe. And he just had some gun questions for me. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm helping him out. And he comes back and he's like, hey, you used to be an accountant, right? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I have a story arc coming up where I need G.I. Joe to have an accountant. Like there's actually an accountant assigned to G.I. Joe, the G.I. Joe team for like their budget and everything. And he's like, can I make you the G.I. Joe accountant? And I was like, this is the greatest thing I have ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And I think this is and so officially, canonically, I am a J. Well, here's the fun thing. So they
still don't have the USS flag though. It never showed up on Christmas.
I never got it. I was too poor to have a flag. It wouldn't have fit in my house. It was too small when I was a kid. But yeah, but they actually when they put me in the comic, they actually made me fatter and gave me glasses, which now is accurate.
Larry, if you were being honest with yourself, it probably would have been accurate back then, but you were still in denial.
Okay. I didn't finally admit that I needed glasses until one day I was out with my son and we were up on the mountainside and we were shooting. We were on the hillside, about 170 yards above a steel target. It had one of those 6-inch plate that swing or 4-inch plate that swings on the head, right? So we both have ARs. We're walking around, and my son goes, and he's a good shooter. My son goes, "Hey, Dad, I bet I can swing the head plate before you can." And I was like, "Yeah, you're on, buddy." I was like, "You go ahead and go first. Your old man's going to smoke you, you know." And so I look, and I'm using a red dot, and I raise the gun up, and I stop, and I look, and I'm looking at it, and I have to look at my son and go, I go, "Joe, what side is the target on?" He's like, "It's on the right side, Dad." And I'm like, "Oh," I literally couldn't see it at like 170 yards. It was like invisible to me. It like ceased to exist. This thing that's almost the size of a human head. Mm-hmm. And that was the day when my son kicked my butt. I was like, "Yeah, I got to go get glasses." And I've had glasses ever since.
I still, if I want to read the label on something I'm eating, I use my iPhone, photograph it, and just expand it.
That's how I paint miniatures.
I once again tried contacts. I used to wear them all the time, but it's been a long time since I wore contacts. So I got these contacts. They're expensive because one of them is weighted for the astigmatism, so it costs double what the other one costs.
Yeah, I've got astigmatism.
They're comfortable. They're all right, but I noticed I can't read anything with them. Right? It's like really blurry up close. And he said, "Yeah, because your prescription is now, things are going to be a little fuzzy up close. We suggest you just get a pair of like reader glasses." I'm like, I don't want to get contacts to stop wearing my glasses to have to go get another pair of glasses. But I mean, it's okay for driving and stuff, but it doesn't happen with my glasses just because the lenses are more like, I guess, flexible, versatile, whatever. But I just got a kick out of that. I got lucky being in Utah when I was with the eye doctors here, because like Utah is such a gun nutty state. So they're talking about like when I was getting my glasses last time, and they were talking about focal length, like what is the ideal focal length for what you do, and I just went like this. and the doctor's like, "Oh, okay," and he immediately knew exactly. Like, "All right, I got you." Good to go.
Mine asked me, she goes, "What activities do you do?" And I go, "Well, I write books, I work out, I drive, and I shoot guns." And with each one, she goes, "Okay, well, you'll need a separate pair of glasses for each one." And I'm like, you've hit the lottery today, huh? Is that what you think?
I'm planning like, my trip to Boca.
Yeah. Why do you need a separate pair of glasses to work out?
That was, I don't know.
You don't need to see.
Yeah.
No, so last year, or actually 2 years ago almost now, I went to the VA. I got an eye exam. They gave me this sweet pair of glasses, right? Well, not this pair. This is the second pair. The first pair, there was a typo on the prescription. They sent me one of the lenses wrong, right? That worked out in my favor because they sent me a pair of glasses with the wrong prescription. I told them. A few days later, they sent me a brand new pair with the right prescription. Cool, right? Well, about a year and a half later, the frames just kind of fell apart. So I called the VA up. I was like, "Hey, the glasses you sent me just broke. Can I get a new pair?"
Yeah, they were military grade.
They were like, "No, well, you can only get a pair of glasses every 2 years through the VA." I was like, "Okay, well, can I get a copy of my prescription then so I can go take it to the eye doctor or take it to like the optical shop and get a new pair of glasses made?" And like, "No, your prescription expired after 1 year." And I was like, "What?" And she repeated it, and I was like, "No, I understand what you said. I'm just, how does that, you know what, never mind. I understand."
It was the VA, man, and that phone call cost $900 million.
Fortunately, Fortunately, I was able to take the glasses apart and put my old lenses, my new lenses, or the lenses into the frame that they had sent me originally that hadn't broken. Right. So
I like that for your VA healthcare, you basically have to do like you're crafting stuff on Fallout.
So Pete, what I'm hearing is that you need to do a Palace Group like branded glasses frames and then just sell them to Mike and you'll make all the money you need.
Apparently, yeah. Yeah, a bit of diversification for what's basically a non-state actor as a security company, but
we had the security company, but most glasses are made by non-state actors. So,
all right.
I saw one of the comments off to the side was we started talking about our glasses, and then one of the comments was like, "Welcome to old writers' home." Get out the Jarrett's Hall.
Actually, speaking of old writers, I still have a 5-year-old, so I got to go help people get to bed, or my wife is going to murder me on screen. And I'm pretty sure that means your channel gets demonetized and taken down. So,
but it would be really good for the clicks, though. I mean,
yeah, it would work out pretty well
for the team.
But
hey, if you don't want Jason to get murdered, hit like and subscribe.
Yeah.
I would prefer that Jason doesn't get murdered, otherwise this company falls apart.
A couple months ago, Coop starts throwing on his best Grand Thumb impression first thing in the stream, so I booted him.
All right, guys.
All right, folks. Well,
thanks.
See you later, boss.
Oh, man.
If you've ever wanted to see Jason get murdered on stream, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
Don't do it. It would all fall apart for me.
Nick is like, oh man, I'd have to do so much more work.
It's that I would so much more work. Jason,
how do I open this Word document?
Ideas. Yeah, exactly. Well, who's going to write this part? And by part, I mean all of it.
No, it's funny. I hear especially a lot from the indies talking about, well, I got all these books stacked up, and I wrote them for in the same universe, in the same setting. My last 2 books that I wrote were both standalones, and I wanted to try something different. And I had people actually say, I think it was nice that you wrote a book where it's not part of a series, where I could just pick it up and I'm not worried that I missed the first 5 books or whatever.
Yeah.
And the next one, the one I'm working on, I'm hoping it'll be the start of maybe a continuing thing, but I just felt like doing a couple of one-offs.
Yeah.
Instead of calling them standalones or one-offs, just call them one-entry series.
Yeah.
So then
you can call them selfies.
Yeah. Just point to George R. Martin's like, I've written 3 series since you last wrote a book.
I actually have, though.
Yeah, so have I.
I've written everything since he last wrote a book.
Yeah,
like everything I have written. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you guys remember, but one day I was just having something where I was like, it's like to make writers feel better. I have a lot of writers that follow me on Facebook, and I got the Writer Dojo thing, which is fun. And speaking of which, I need to have all you guys on there as guests, because we're actually getting our technological stuff now that we can get phone-in guests, and it doesn't sound like crap.
I'll fix my mic. I'm sorry.
Oh no, yeah. I saw the comments like, buy a mic, Nick.
The algorithm is throttling his mic because it fears what it has to say.
Exactly.
Oh, so one day I did a challenge, and it was like the how much have you written since George Martin's last book came out challenge, and I put the date of the publication of the last book, and then I wrote all the stuff that I had done. It was like 22 novels and like a whole like 50 short stories and all this stuff. But then all the other writers started doing it too, and even guys who were like beating themselves up, thinking that like, I can't get work done, I got to work harder, but they would put it like, wow, I'm kicking George Martin's butt, and I did it to make fun of George Martin, yet it turned into like a wholesome thing. It was like wholesome and uplifting.
At some point, you just got to admit that you're retired.
I was told Straw Larry never does white pill shit like that.
Oh, yeah. Dude, which is funny. Okay, so this last week I got banned on Facebook twice, right? And in the 48 hours between when I was banned, I raised $10,000 for charity. I was banned, came back, hurried and raised. Well, actually, we turned out to be like $17,000 is what we raised for one of my moderators. She needed cancer surgery. Jennifer, she's awesome. So, but if I did it, it would get like a lot more boost than if somebody else did it. So I came back from a ban, hurried and raised a bunch of money for charity, and got banned again.
Yeah.
It's like in the brief time I am free, I will try to do good in the world.
Yeah.
Honestly, talk about the fan community though. I am the luckiest guy in publishing. Like Night, I kid you not, my fans are friggin' awesome, and I love them. Like I say that, and people think it's like I'm saying like a marketing thing, but I'm being dead serious. Like I got like when weird crap has happened in my life, and I'm getting yelled at by psychopaths. My fans are amazing, absolutely just creepy humanity.
I think you came along at just the right time. You had a nice mix of talent and good fortune. You dropped in
and good looks.
And like you said,
good fortune, and you dropped into a niche, like your own little niche in the market at just the perfect time, and you've really made it work out for you.
Yeah.
Well, there's one other thing I might add
Brandon
about
Sanderson.
There's one thing I might add about Larry that sometimes not all writers possess. I don't possess it. Jason possesses it. And that's why I really admire the things that he does. But Larry has a grounded sense of business, and he pursues profitability. And sometimes a lot of writers are pie in the sky and artsy, and they think, well, I should just be an instant success, or, I'm doing this for personal reasons or whatever. And I see a lot of the things Larry does, and he does them, the things that make Larry a powerful arguer on Twitter and all that stuff is he always comes with you with the facts. Not, and I've seen him just like devastate people with like, oh, you think that? Well, how about this and this and this and this? And it's like, it used to be okay to be a pie in the sky writer, and be off in art world and let Big Pub and your accountants and, all that Hemingway shit, people handle your life. But like in this new age, you have to have a pretty good grounded head for business. Like not putting down Coop's idea. It's a great idea to have like 5 pieces of art, but I don't think that like if you're going in initially and you're trying to make a series work, you've already put yourself $5,000 in the hole on earning out on a title. Right. So you've got to like, because as an indie, you are the business. And if you like what you're seeing, like we were talking about Amazon credit ads, what I saw people do in the last 2 years is treat that like a casino and literally take their credit cards to run ads, credit cards that they could not pay off. And so what happened is you're now out of the writing game. You're back trying to make some money, so that you can pay that off. So Larry has all those things that you said. The one thing, you may not be able to have as much fun as Larry has, or have the winning personality that Larry generally has, or be as good looking. But you could probably get pretty close on
Coop.
Business. Yeah.
I'm fucked.
Dude, you got to have a good sense of business if you're going to do this, because it's all about, and like some of these publishers, they have like the audiobook publishers, they have super predatory contracts. So like you got to really know how to cost that out and look at that. Otherwise, you're just never going to make any money.
Yeah, I actually have an interesting thing. I can't give away too many deals, but like I do these Lost Planet homicide novellas for Audible, and they give them away free. And so one of the things they were doing there is they were like going to guys that were already really popular in Audible, but because they Audible exclusives, they want to be able to give a free book every month to the subscribers. But contractually, it's hard if you have a regular royalty agreement to give away product for free. That's really sticky for them. So what they did is they started approaching different authors and offering us novella deals for people who are already really popular. But it's a really interesting contract that's unlike anything else I've seen. And I know what I'm getting, and it's really good. And so it's the kind of thing it's a one and done upfront kind of thing, which is cool. But I've heard recently, I won't name the author, but I ran into another author who I know who's one of the, he blows us away. He's a top seller, right? He's an airport bookstore guy, right? And I found out what he was getting for his audio exclusive giveaways. And There are some people out there that you can afford to be the artiste pie in the sky because you make so much friggin' money that it doesn't matter if you're stupid with it. You can't spend it all. And I was like listening to this guy, and I was like, wow, you really are the 1%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's always that guy.
Yeah,
but
the rest of us, we really got to be careful with this stuff. You know,
but I think everybody has to be. I mean, where's Charlie Sheen's $50 million for his last? You know, where like as an accountant, people just the more success. I think a lot of instantly successful people, they just blow their money left and right, and they do that thing where they think it's always going to be there.
You remember what happened with John Milius? You guys know the story with what happened to his career? Remember John Milius, Red Dawn?
Yep.
Yeah, I know that kind of got him blacklisted, and his daughter's pretty red pilled.
So Red Dawn actually, because the guy was like the writer on everything that was awesome up until that point. He did Red Dawn.
The Rock too.
He actually, okay, so what happened was he did Red Dawn, and that got him blackballed by all the commies and the leftists. All hated him for that. But what actually ruined the guy was he trusted all his money to, he just left all his money to his accountant. And he got robbed. Like Milius straight up got robbed and left him broke and penniless. And so he wound up working on, I want to say it was Deadwood. And the guy who was writing Deadwood was one of his proteges. Like the guy in charge of Deadwood was one of Milius's proteges. And Milius went to this guy, basically hand in hand. He's like begging for work, because he was blackballed at this point. The last thing he'd done before this was like Rome. And that guy at Deadwood was like, no, man. It's like, you are the master. I would love to have you. And Milius was like, I need money so I can keep my daughter in college, And so this guy was like, no, I'll just pay for that. You come work for me. You come write. And it was, and he had a stroke after this, but it was just like, you gotta, no matter how good you are. Milius is one of the greatest Hollywood writers that has ever freaking lived. That guy was so badass, right? Yeah. That guy was the epitome of freaking awesome manliness. No one can write manliness like Milius, right? Conan, all right?
Yeah.
And so the thing is, like, he got screwed because of the business end of things, And so, man, keep the stuff close to the vest. Don't farm out anything that's vital for your survival. If it's life or death, you make sure you keep tabs on that stuff.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of authors who don't.
No, it's a new author skill that you got to have in the toolkit. Is you got to have a head for business, and that's the rise in indies. We're having the rise of the micro publishers. So guys like Dakota Crowd, Jan Chaney, we're doing it now. We just started our own little micro publisher in January. We're just we're moving into that. We're going to publish a lot of people, and we're giving good contracts, but kind of the way forward for the new people, Coop, is you're probably going to need to go with a micro publisher, and they'll kind of push you forward. Just like, Stephen King wasn't anybody until Simon & Schuster took out ads in the New York Times telling you he was somebody. He didn't make it on his own. A massive New York publishing company pushed him, and that's kind of probably what's going to happen now. The micro publishers are going to push the new talent forward. So it's not hopeless.
It's kind of interesting how it's shaking out. It's like it's not really necessarily like a hierarchy, but there's kind of like a way where the small house publishers are becoming like a kind of a screening thing for like to find the talent, because a lot of the big publishers are not accepting anything from people who don't have agents or anything, that people who don't already have something published. They're just not. Right. So the big houses, like Bayan is not one of the big houses. We're like one of the bigger ones, but we're not part of the main mega conglomerates. They're screwed up. Like their business practices, not just like, I'm not talking politically. Like we've bagged on them. You guys all know my political issues with the big houses. But business-wise, speaking as an accountant, speaking as a former corporate guy, they're idiots. How they run their business is the most incompetent thing ever.
The people who listen to N.K. Jemisin are idiots? I'm shocked.
Shocked,
I tell you.
Which is funny because some of these people who are their best-selling writers, you don't realize just how much money big money that corporate publishing is putting into them to get them to that bestseller status. And so I have some of these is like, if I look on BookScan and it's like, this author has sold this many copies and I've sold this many copies. Well, here's the kicker though. I know behind the scenes because, I still talk to people in other places, usually on the down low because they don't admit they know Larry Correia. I know how much that publisher is spending to get that number of sales. And I know what my publisher is spending to get my number of sales. And they might be a little ahead of me, but by golly, I beat them on ROI. You know what I'm saying? And so big publishing, though, I had another guy, and I'll keep this super vague because I can't out him and get him in trouble. This is a great writer who writes for one of the big publishing houses. And if the people there knew that he was like a friend of mine and I've like given him business advice, they would probably burn him at the stake, right?
Is it Amy Tan?
He's an AI.
No. Actually, name somebody I don't like, and I'll be like, yeah, that's totally him. Okay, so no,
George R. R. Martin, but he doesn't write books, so.
Well, so this guy comes into it, and when he first gets this deal, he's like, "Hey, Larry, should I sign with these guys? What do you think?" And I told him everything I knew about that publishing house, and he signed with them, and they wined and dined him and talked about how they were going to do this and do that, and lots of promotion and marketing and book tours, and you know what? When the time came, they did dick. They did nothing for the guy. They made him all these big promises of what they're going to do, and then they just, good luck, you're on your own. Hope it does well. Hope it earns out. Yeah. And that's what they did to him. And the thing is, I know probably 6 other dudes the same publishing house has done because they're so fickle. What they do is they'll pick an author who has like some sellable marketing thing about their personality or demographic or something, and they'll be like, "Yeah, we're going to promote you." Only by the time the book comes out, that's no longer the hotness. Yes. And now we want something else. Yeah. We talked about you at the parties, and I was able to tell my friends that I signed somebody from demographic X. But in this season, demographic Y is the hotness.
Oh, sorry. He's disabled in addition to what you have.
Yeah.
And what we noticed at Amazon a lot too is like people would come in with all these big ideas and then they would go somewhere else 6 months later. Because like no one stays at a corporation anymore with talent. Corporations just keep hiring people, like in circles, and they actually eventually come back around to the same publishing house. But like when Amazon did Kindle Vella, you could tell that was someone's big idea, and then they left and they handed it off to like some production assistant, and it was just like a total disaster. Yeah. So a lot of stuff doesn't get followed on because the people flip and go to other corporations for BBDs, bigger, better deals. And then the idea or the product or the person or the campaign doesn't get implemented by someone who actually cares about it because there's no ownership in it for them. Yeah. So that's kind of what happens there.
Isn't that kind of the way with just a lot of the business world these days, though? I mean,
oh, yeah.
Look at how many people move around for work. I mean, yeah. I saw a picture on my photo stream today of my conure. I have a blue crown conure, a small parrot. I've had him for 10 years. I have lived in 4 states since I've had that parrot, chasing, going to different jobs. And that's just the way the economy is now. And you think about that, like nobody stays at a company for 20 years and gets the gold watch when they retire anymore. Yeah. It's very you're always moving, always changing jobs. And I wonder if that isn't part of the reason you have problems with institutional knowledge, like at Twitter and like at Amazon, where people don't know how anything works. They can't fix the problems because those guys left a long time ago.
100%.
I had a good friend of mine just got laid off. Half his company got laid off because another friend of mine who owned the company sold out, and can't blame him because he sold this company. He made a lot of money. It was good. Venture capitals came in and took it over and basically fired everybody who was loyal to the old boss. Lost all their institutional knowledge because they don't care. And it's like, yeah, publishing is just like all these other companies, and there's a lot of mismanagement, a lot of lack of leadership, a lot of lack of vision. And sadly, sometimes the people who have the most vision are the social justice warriors because to them, they at least have a religion that they're following. And they might not care about profitability or success, but by golly, they're going to fulfill the commandments and virtue signal their righteousness.
They care about something besides their next payout.
Exactly. And because they don't, and none of these people are accountants, you know what I mean? And so sadly, sometimes you got these corporations, they lack vision. If you lack vision and you lack leadership, well, guess who's going to come in?
Yes.
Somebody will.
And also, all they're trying to do is accomplish destruction. They're not trying to build anything. Destroying is always easier. But the takeaway from that is like, and it's what I see among a lot of people who, like, you still see these people who will say like, I'm thinking about writing a book, but I need to get a publisher and all these kinds of things. And it's like, what you want is someone to do all the heavy lifting for you instead of you taking responsibility for your career. And so like, that's you can overcome all of these things and all these different publishing people or whichever way you choose to go. You just have to know you're going to do all the work. No one's going to do it for you. You know, you might be like Andy Weir and just accidentally get successful by writing a fun thing, but you know, generally
also crowdsourced his bestseller.
Yeah. Well, it's like that's like winning the lottery. You know what I mean?
It's winning the lottery, but he wrote it as a blog post. He basically got alpha read by all these NASA engineers and science nerds who like solved all his problems for him and pointed out all his mistakes so that he could get it done before it ever went to market.
Yeah,
that's why his next book.
There's a lot of statistically irreproducible things about Andy, but he's never had that success again.
Right.
And that's not a career. You cannot make a career on one book. You'll especially if you get used to being the toast of the town and you got to keep up that lifestyle.
Pat Rothfuss, and then all you got to do is start a charity, and have your charity pay you, and then you can just play Dungeons and Dragons all week.
Hey, I was going to ask, when you got banned, did you you raise all that money for charity and didn't spend it on your rent? That's crazy.
I know. I'm doing this wrong, guys.
You were the worst author.
I got a word of advice out there for the aspiring guys again, for the wannabes, right? When we're talking about your career and we're talking about making money, and like, I don't want to discourage anybody, but it's important that you manage your expectations a little bit, right? Most writers don't make enough money from writing to actually do it for a living. I know a lot of writers. I don't know very many who actually do that and is their only job. I know successful writers who still haven't quit their day jobs. It could be a sporadic source of income. You never know how much you're going to make in advance. You don't know what your royalties are going to be. You don't know, and you can't control it. You can't control how well your books sell. It's your talent, yes, but a lot of it is out of your hands. So don't give yourself unrealistic expectations and then get crushed when your book doesn't sell that well the first time. My first royalty check from Ban was like $147, and that was split with Larry, who was one of the hottest guys at Ban at the time. So,
which is funny because people are all like, "Why don't you write more Dead Six novels?" It's like because they sell like a fraction of what Monster Hunter does.
Because you people don't buy them. That's why. On the other hand, my own royalties got lower and lower the farther I got away from writing Larry's coattails. So,
it's one of those. I've done breakdowns online. I'm pretty public on everything but a flat amount. I don't want to. I'm an accountant. I'm not going to go out there and tell you what I make. But I've gone through and I've done detailed breakdowns of like what percentage of my income comes from what kind of writing, what percentage of my royalty check comes from each book and each series. I'm super transparent about that just because the reason I do that is I'm trying to help writers kind of have an understanding of how this business works, a realistic understanding. Because there's a lot of misconceptions, like the stats Mike talking about. Honestly, because you guys know they talk about average mid-list author. I guess in the indie world, that's probably a guy who's moderately successful, a moderately successful indie writer. Those guys are probably making $20,000-$30,000 a year, off their writing. So you ain't quitting your day job. And it's funny because a lot of the people that are like the lefty darlings that they're held up as these big successful writers, that's actually only what their sales are, but they live off of something else, usually a trust fund. Mommy and daddy left them a bunch of money. You know, they went to Cornell, they went to Stanford, and now they have to squeak by on $100,000 a year paycheck from mom and dad, and they make like 30 grand from their mom, or 30 grand for their writing, and they're a huge hit. As far as quitting your day job, honestly, most of us, you're looking at, once again, this is changing. I'm talking trad pub, right? So because there's a lot more delay in trad pub than there is in indie, because indie is going to be a much higher number, but on trad pub, you're looking at like 5 or 6 novels done, more in the pipeline, more under contract before you're anywhere near where you're thinking about quitting your day job. Indie guys, I'm gonna have to look to Nick and Pete on this one, but I'm thinking probably closer to 20 novels before you're
Yeah,
that job.
I mean, I might disconnect here because I've got about 1% of my phone left, but let's just see what I can rant about. But, you know, like there's a whole movement, you know, that say, I think it's 20 books to $50,000. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. But what I would say is if you sat down as an indie and you built an IP, not wrote books, but you built an IP, you like Star Trek or Star Wars or Galaxy's Edge or Monster Hunter, those are IPs, intellectual properties. And you approach that as a brand and you developed a customer base, and then you began to serve that customer base as effectively as In-N-Out Burger is about to serve me my double for dinner, you know, in a timely fashion. I can have it when I want. I have a relationship. There's swag that I can buy and everything like that. In 3 to 5 years, it is my firm belief that you would replace an average income of a household in doing that. Yeah, you're susceptible to the winds of fate. Maybe the monitor falls down and crushes your hands, or maybe you get an aneurysm and you can't write anymore. You don't have that corporation or whatever. But I think 3 to 5 years of working faithfully and building an IP and not jumping around and just continuing to faithfully reproduce, I would say 4 to 6 books in that IP every year. Not doing everything in the world, just doing merchandising, maintaining an email list. You could move to the next level and you could say, I'm going to start a subscription service. And so there are a lot of people that.
Oh,
his phone died.
Oh, man.
Right when it was getting good.
Mid-thought.
Well, we'll have to have Nick back on to finish that out.
We'll just play him a section of that stream. Just be like, all right, whatever you were saying right now, finish it.
So, no, if you want to hear
no pressure.
If you want to hear what Nick had to say after that, you're gonna have to go to our subscription model.
Donate to our Patreon.
I've been tempted to create a Patreon at one point just for one reason. Because there's authors on the left I really hate, and I would just like to make a Patreon just to make it bigger than theirs, just because I could, and then I would shut it down.
I was going to say Patreon would shut it down first.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Patreon would just be like, ew.
You would have to go to Subscribestar or one of the other, one of the ones where all the dregs of society go, because.
Again, we're getting into the parallel structures thing that we've been talking about all night.
Yeah, I was gonna say you should just like market your stuff on the Steam store, and instead of like marketing it as a video game, just be like ancillary material to it, or a supplemental material. Everything's a DLC.
If this writing thing doesn't work out for me, I'm just gonna be a Twitch streamer and play Call of Duty all day.
Tough market, man. You're not like a bikini babe, so
yeah, you're competing with all the Twitch thoughts.
I can out sexy the twit thoughts. Wow, I can't even talk.
You can't even say it.
Who do you think you are, Mr. Beast?
Dude, okay, now say what you will about that guy, but holy crap, the charity stuff that dude does blows me away. As a guy who loves using my little tiny bit of fame to do with the charity stuff that I can, I love it. I look at this guy and I'm like, man, that dude knows how to do charity, and like baller.
I like how all the internet communists are mad at him for giving his money away to help people.
Yeah, the internet communists are the worst piece of crap in the universe, because how dare this guy like cure the blindness of 1,000 people That's the government's job, and we should give more in taxes. Just shut the hell up.
The last internet billionaire I know of who had like the make money to give it away and all that shit. Turns out he didn't actually have billions of dollars, and he's now in a Bahamas prison. So,
yeah. Well, folks, we're coming up on about
weird
3 hours.
Yeah. Oh yeah, guys, I'm exhausted. I've had 33 radio interviews in the last couple weeks, so I'm sick of talking to people.
Yeah.
Oh, and I told Mike about this. I haven't talked about the internet. There's a thing called COVID toe. Have you heard of that? COVID toe?
No.
Yeah, Google it. I ain't making this up. Apparently, I had COVID a few weeks ago or a month ago, and then you get COVID. You get COVID toe after, and it's a swelling of your toes. This is the stupidest disease ever. Thank you, Chinese bioweapons and Dr. Fauci. Is there nothing this disease can't do? My feet hurt because I'm sitting here talking to you guys.
I was going to say, you sure this is not gout and they're marketing it as COVID toe so that they can give you a vaccine?
I'm tempted to take my camera here and show everyone my feet, but YouTube would demonetize us.
You're not open. You can't do that.
We have a no feet pics rule. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, last time I was on the show with you guys, I was like busting out desk guns for show and tell, and I have a really awesome one here behind me that I just got yesterday. But if I do that, I know that YouTube will get mad at Pete, so I can't even show you guys.
I mean, you could probably show us the COVID toe, but you might end up on Wiki Feet.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're comfortable with that.
That's true. And if I'm going to wind up on Wiki Feet, I'm going to monetize that.
All right, folks. We will see you next month.